Good evening, and welcome to Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. Joining myself and Antonio Subrats tonight is Jaren Campanella of Globebusters and Jarenism. How you doing, Jaren?
Doing fantastic, and you?
Not too bad.
Very
Pretty
good.
good. And what about you, Antonio? You doing well?
No, I'm doing really badly. So
Oh
don't
no.
don't even ask.
No, go on. You've got to tell us now. What's wrong? What's getting Antonio down?
Well, I just think people aren't seeing me as sexy enough. They should see me as sexier. That's what it is.
You're really
That's
low on my scale, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I don't see you as sexy at all, Antonio.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's just I just feel like people objectify me, but they shouldn't.
It's really wrong of us.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Moving swiftly on. Well, I mean, the main reason I'm hoping to chat with Joan tonight is about the literal fourth wall. So we've got a metaphorical fourth wall that we talk about on the shows to date, but I want to talk about the actual fourth wall, considering all the world is a stage, and what we are doing in that stage is perpetuating a lie that we've been given for well, let's call it 500 years. But what I want to kind of dissect up is how we are presented with that lie. And the square screen is how we see most things these days. It's the way we're presented with it. And NASA, being the worst culprit of all, have fed us lots of lies. And I'm hoping we can sort of expose how they do it and what they do precisely. Jaren, you do a really good job of dicing up the ISS because you've spent ages looking at it, and most recently you were, what was the amount that you actually put on the table, so to speak, with your bet?
Yeah, I made a couple bets of $1,000 trying to get somebody to bet me, because I've done enough study of the ISS to know that it shuts off about every 20 minutes. Sometimes it could go a half hour at the longest. So I felt really safe, and it was actually funny, if you would have been part of the conversation before it happened, was with my wife and I arguing over how much I was going to bet, because she's like, "We don't have $1,000 to lose," and I said, "No, come, work with me here. That we've watched it how many times? Has it ever gone longer than a half hour?" And I said, "I'm not betting to win money, and I'm not betting to lose money. But I said I'm making this bet because I know no one will be able to beat it." And so that's a pretty confident position to be in. I knew that there was no chance that it would show longer than an hour. Now I think I would second guess myself on making the same bet right now, just because I would be afraid that NASA's gotten word of it and would put something up a little longer than an hour. But I know that if we went there now, if you guys went to ISS Live, there's no way it would be longer than an hour. So put that bet up. We went live. I called Morgile and told him I was going to do it. He joined, and nobody took the bet, unfortunately. Would have liked $1,000, but they certainly cannot show you longer than 30 minutes or 45 minutes, because in order to do that, they would have to actually have something flying 17,500 miles per hour, covering the distance that they claim it covers. I think that they probably have anywhere from 20 to 50 high-altitude planes that are acting as the ISS.
Wow.
Have you seen? I forget who it was. Somebody in Hawaii made a video where he was tracking the ISS, and then the video was about how when you track the ISS from various different areas of the globe, the ISS is just about to enter the air. It was tracking 4 different ISSs. Did you see that video?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, he changed. I forget the name. He changed the time zone for his computer. So he's saying, okay, now I'm in Hawaii. This is where the ISS is. Now I'm going to change my time zone on the computer and tell it I'm in Europe. Now look at where the ISS is. And just over and over, he just kept doing this and showing that, depending on where you are, the ISS is just over there. So that kind of confirms the idea that they have multiple planes up there.
Yeah, the other thing that you pointed out, Joe, and I think this was a couple of weeks ago, was the fact that they've got really poor quality, and you kind of diced up their budget and how much they actually spend versus the cost of a decent camera, basically.
Yeah, what I'm starting to notice is they stop short all the time of coming anywhere near proving that what they're showing is reality. So if it was reality, they'd be able to show 24/7. They've been up there 16 years and have never had a 24/7 feed, and there's a reason for that, because they can't show it. So it's kind of an interesting way to go about attacking what they're doing, because if you kind of go as far as looking into where they stop short, that's where you can exploit them. So one of the examples would be, I'm going to start pushing for them to put a helmet cam on one of these astronauts, because if you think about it, there's a helmet cam on everybody. I've seen a helmet cam on a Major League Baseball catcher. I've seen a helmet cam on a NASCAR racer, on a skydiver. We see all these people wearing helmet cams, but we've never seen a Kelly or one of these astronauts put a helmet cam on, get in the shuttle or whatever, the rocket, get launched to space, watch their helmet cam the entire time, and as they get out and enter the space station. So when you realize that, then you have to realize there's a reason why they haven't done it. So the reason why is because they can't. And that tells me that they're not sending people to a space station. They're sending a rocket into the sky, and the astronauts themselves are who knows where, underground, in a parabolic flight. I don't know where they're at, but they're certainly not where they are supposed to be.
They seem to have some high-quality footage, but it's always pre-rendered. They've never just got the 24-hour feed with the glorious lights, and that never seems to be the case. It's just garbage that they give you on the 24-hour feed with constant blue screen, and we have lost transmission. And then when they produce something the following day, it's covered in glorious lights, or it's got the continents really nicely depicted. It begs belief that they can't, like you say, take a 4K camera up there and just point it downwards.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, or why we don't have an astronaut with a handheld camcorder just looking out the window as the rocket's flying away. And the fact that they don't have it is pretty obvious to me. And you guys will enjoy a video I'm working on now. It's taking a little bit of time, but I'm going to make some pretty crazy claims in it. Because I've actually been looking at launch footage. I've always had a problem with their launches, and I've always kind of felt that they were projected, but I didn't know of a way that you could do that. And I have found out that there was a 1958 patent by Walt Disney, believe it or not, that is for projecting kind of reality onto smoke. And it's using mirrors. And the way that they've got their platform built, if you think about it, looks like it's up on a platform, and underneath that, if you've got a mirror, like this patent calls for, and you blow a lot of smoke up, you can project the image onto the smoke. So then I started thinking, okay, well, that tells me how they would get this picture of the flames, but I couldn't figure out, well, where does the rocket come from? Because the rocket sits above the smoke, so they're not projecting the image of the rocket on the smoke. Well, then I kind of started thinking, well, if they had some sort of thing that looked like a rocket going up, they could then project the flames on the smoke, which would make it look like a launch. Well, then I realized that I think what they're doing is they're sending up, this is going to sound crazy, call me crazy, I'm just going to say it, the shuttle that we see, or the rockets that we see, are gigantic helium balloons.
Well,
Yes.
I've seen something similar to this. I mean, this is about 5 years ago. On Top Gear, now bear with me, they had a car fly into the studio, and it looked to all intents and purposes like a full-size car, but it was just a giant helium balloon.
Yeah, I think that that big red rocket that they have that the shuttle's attached to, and it's got its side rockets. Imagine that being a helium balloon. It starts going up, which is why it looks incredibly slow to our vantage point. You're looking at it thinking, that doesn't look like a rocket. And the reason why is it's just a helium balloon, and that's why they have it tied down, and they have the cap on top of it, because if it wasn't there, it could float off. So they remove the cap, the thing starts floating up, they shoot a bunch of smoke out of it. I'm not sure if they shoot it out of the helium balloon, I'm not sure how you would do that, or if it's just the smoke coming from underneath it, and then the projection of those stupid flames is a projection. And that's what they're showing, that's why you can't get close to it. It is a big production, but it's absolutely a easy way to steal money from people. You figure that Himawari satellite cost it was 270 million plus 100 million for the launch, so that's 370 million, and all it does is return that half picture of the globe with clouds on it. So really, you picture sending up a high altitude plane like every day to get the cloud cover, and then you send that down, superimpose it onto a ball, and it probably costs them over 5 years, maybe, say it's 10 million bucks to send up this plane every day. Well, they just stole 360 million bucks. So to me, it just starts making sense. It's, you know, people say, why would they lie to us? Why would they lie to us? Well, again, once you put yourself in a position of power, like scientists are, they have nothing invested in telling us the truth any longer. If the truth means all of them look like assholes, liars, and charlatans and thieves. You know, why would they, well, you know, peer review, who's going to take that paper and say, what? Oh, the Earth is flat? This looks good. Let's put this in publication. Absolutely not. They're going to say that you're an idiot and make fun of you, throw it away, and, you know, get more papers that talk about relativity because that leaves them in their positions of power.
But do you have people constantly approaching you saying, getting rid of feedback, saying, this is my proof I've worked at this particular place, NASA, and here's my piece of equipment that I've worked on, it went up on X rocket? You must have that all the time.
Yeah, I actually know people who have worked for Northrop Grumman and also JPL. So I understand where they're coming from, and I've heard people say, my grandfather worked on the Saturn V, you know, are you calling him a liar? And it's those people are telling the truth. I mean, those people did build an engine for the Saturn V. Now, whether it went up or not is inconsequential. They think it did. They felt very proud, and you know, that's the hard part about this whole thing, is it is a slap in the face to many people. You know, and I don't like exposing that, but on the other hand, what are you supposed to do? Just let people keep lying and letting people feel good, and when it's not warranted, it's not so much that they're not intelligent, you know, engineers. They're brilliant, but they've been put into a box and made do something that is not beneficial to mankind. All the money we've spent in space, I just imagine if we had been able to spend that on things that matter. And you know, I think that no matter, when I keep looking, I keep seeing NASA, that's their excuse. They kind of feed that to people like the greater good. I think that's how they talk to these astronauts, is that you're doing this for the greater good, that if we told people that we live in some sort of enclosed system or structure that we're not allowed out of, that they would get complacent or they would get bored. So we have to kind of tell them that these magical things exist so that they keep trying to invent, and really I think they're trying to get somebody to invent something to get them out of here. That's what they're hoping somebody does.
That's been my suspicion too. When you said the balloon, I immediately just then I thought, oh my God, that's exactly the kind of thing that charlatans would do. Because if anybody exposed it, they come out winning. It's in, dude, we fooled you for all of these years. Come on, you've got to give us some praise for that, you know. And then they send out all these contracts to engineering firms around the world, because I know engineers here in the UK who have made valves for NASA, who have made various different things for NASA, and I think they build something out of it that doesn't cost the money that they say it costs at all. So they can drive around with some rocket part on the back of a truck, and people see it, and there you go. Everything's confirmed. Yeah.
Jaron, you said again probably a couple of months ago now that it's an outrage. NASA can give us the answers to questions that a lot of flat earthers are answering. If let's assume that they have at least some technology to go up and have a look, but they could answer some of the questions we have in a heartbeat. You know, we've got simple questions about what the sun and moon are, and most people don't have an answer. And NASA could answer that in a heartbeat, yet they're pissing away money at a rate of knots. It's an absolute outrage.
Yeah, it is.
Well, yeah. I think the reason they're not telling us things that are true, that it not only does it scupper them, but people would extrapolate much deeper significance, and which would invalidate their. Let's say they said, look, this is what's actually going on. This is how things are. And we want to get out. People would say, yo, stop ruining things so that it's nice to be here. That way you don't want to get out.
Right, yeah. I don't have any problems with the world as it is, other than the people who are lying to me about where I live. That's my only problem with being here. And I just think, and I've said this a lot recently, but if we would have grown up and in classrooms been told, you know what, guys, we're not sure exactly what the moon is. We've been looking into it, but we don't know what it is, and we don't know what the sun is. But they're amazing timekeeping pieces that we use to create a calendar. I just think this world would be 110% better, because people would have had an appreciation for things that we don't have an appreciation for now. Ask a 6th grader or an 8th grader, or a high school senior about the moon or about the sun, and they would not care. And that's the way that it was taught. As a matter of fact, it's we're all accidental. The sun is the heat. The moon is a piece that flew off of the earth. It's all very toned down and kind of just erased. It's and I just think, like, I wish that we would have been told honestly that they didn't know. If they don't know, which I'm not positive that they even do know. So if they don't know, then just tell us the truth, and that's how you get people to be better to each other. That right there makes people a better person, I think. Could be wrong.
Like they may not know. That's pretty terrible.
Yeah, no, I think it does, but I think that's okay. For instance, you or I don't know what the sun or moon is right now, right? That would be something you would agree on. So, are you scared of the sun or moon?
No.
Yeah, and neither am I. And so I think that because I don't know what it is, it intrigues me. It's amazing. It leads me to know that even if I were to take the scientific view of it, it still leads me to believe in a creator, because there's no way it's accidental. Oh, it just happens to be 400 times as big and 400 times as far as the moon. It just doesn't make any sense. Anybody with a rational mind can reach their own conclusion that no, it's there for a reason. That is meant for timekeeping. It's meant to prove the creator. The whole thing is makes all the sense in the world. I'm not scared of it, but I think it also can make you a better person. Some of these people who are atheists who just will yell and scream at Christians and call them idiots, and it's almost as if they can't wait to die. Well, they can wait because they only get one life, they think, but they think, when I die, I just sleep. And if that's your mentality, then does it matter that you walk into a store and steal something? Does it matter if you find somebody's wallet with $1,000 in it and you decide to keep it rather than call the person and return it? When you have that atheistic mindset, no, there's no difference in returning that wallet or stealing from it. So I think that the world would be a better place. People would, and I don't know if you call it scared. It's you have more concern, I guess, for others, because there's a chance that what you're doing is being watched, or you will be judged by your actions and whether you cared about other people beside yourself. And I think I love that Daniel Pratt video where he is going over the answers for why does it matter, and he said, because if it doesn't matter to you, then you're all that matters to you. And I think that he said it really well. And he was upset and he was cussing, and I love the guy. He's being honest, and he's just saying that how do you not care? It means you only care about yourself. As long as you're happy, everything's fine. You don't care that your kids, our grandkids are being lied to. I think that that's the way we need to look at it. And yeah, these guys are jokers, and you're right. It certainly makes me laugh that it could be just as simple. And I'm not saying every launch is a helium balloon, but I'm just saying that the more I start putting those things together, they certainly look like they would work. And it's definitely right in your face. It's definitely something people would laugh about. And smoke and mirrors. How many times have you been told that in your life and not really understood it? You're like, smoke and mirrors. Okay, it's all smoke and mirrors. Well, what is smoke and mirrors? What do you mean? I don't see a lot of smoke anywhere, and I don't. Besides a fun house, where do I see a bunch of mirrors? So when you start realizing what smoke and mirrors means, it's a pretty easy deception.
So is this part and parcel of what NASA do to take people on this merry ride of the globe? I mean, what I want to kind of get into is how do NASA take you from the obvious and the observable to this nonsense fallacy and have it just accepted as fact. Because a lot of that has come from NASA programming and GLOBE programming in general, but they're the biggest proof machine.
Or the only.
Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. So how have they tricked us? I mean, we're not tricked anymore, but most people are. 99% of people think they're on a globe, and if they're their only proof machine, how have they achieved it?
Ridicule.
Yeah.
Ridicule. Just we live in a society right now, especially in the West, but it is taking over the rest of the world, where status is the ever so important thing, and status is all about how you're seen by others. So ridicule, that's it, you know. So I want to go back to the point you made about imagine if in school they said, look, we don't really know what the moon is. Can you imagine the sense of wonder and mystery that the children would have? So if all children had this thinking, oh wow, maybe I can help find out. It crosses. It's not just. It doesn't go into just the field that we now call astronomy, or the spheres or the elements in the sky. It would go on to geology. What the heck is this place? How was it made? It would be such a positive thing, and I hope that one day it gets to that. I don't think that we're caught in a trap where NASA will always dictate things, where the Rockefeller Institute will always dictate curriculum. I think it will get to that point at some stage, and I think that's at least I'm helping to contribute to that. That's what I have my intention set on. And I was going to ask you, Jaron, can you imagine, or do you think that will happen at some point, that there will be some event by which either an event or a series of small surreptitious events that gets to the point where they can drop the globe?
Yeah, if it doesn't happen, then I don't think I completed something I would hope to in my life. So I'll say that much, that at this point, and if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I kind of felt like, it kind of sucks that you're going to live and die and not contribute in some way to humanity. And I think that I even got to that point, I was store manager at a drugstore, not contributing a lot. And now it kind of gives me a little hope that if I can prove this, if I can help show this, then I think there will be an event that would get mankind to realize that we can do so much more than we've been doing, and that we've been fooled, and hopefully there'll be some things put in place to where we don't let people fool us again. The scientific method is a way to not let people fool you. When somebody says this is the truth, then you simply, if you come along after, you take every shot you can at knocking that off its perch. You try and disprove what is currently on top of the perch. And if you can't, well, that's just more validation for whatever is the current truth. So that's the way the scientific method should work. What happened was they put something up on the top, and then, as Antonio said, they just use ridicule and pretending that they are part of the intellectual, elite, and that you are just dumb. And so what that does is it made nobody want to question the things that were put up on the perch, and it's completely against science. Science should be about attacking the things that are up above, attacking the things that have been given to you as truth. And if you were about science, you would welcome those attacks. As even somebody who discovered gravity, somebody who discovered, orbital mechanics, you should have no problem when somebody knocks you down, because you would really be caring about the ongoing pursuit of truth. And it's certainly not what we're at now. And when you have allowed certain things to pass through as truth, then the people after you are all handicapped, because they have to operate in a system that doesn't work to start. You're not going to win a race with a car that doesn't have an engine. And so that's what a lot of these people who are scientific or scientists are trying to do.
I think you said it once when you said about them starting with a foundation, and I think you echoed this a couple of nights ago, actually, Antonio, when you were saying that the foundations of science, the point zero that they build upon, is false to begin with. So from that point out, it makes no difference where their experiments have proofs. The assumption that they started with falsifies the whole thing.
Yeah, it's the the foundationalist system of proof. So, which has to start at one point. They say we can pick a point as long as the point we're picking is valid and justified. Otherwise, we could go into an endless regression and never reach an actual foundation. That itself is it's illogical to think. Well, we don't know what the actual foundation is, but this point seems to be. So we'll go from this point on, and if anything that's set on that is basically just it's fragile and it needs a lot of propping.
I was going to say, like, the Big Bang is pretty much a perfect example of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the epitome of the example, because that's what they do. They say from this point, and then if anybody asks about the point leading up to that, they say no. There's no lead up to it really. There was no time. There was no space. There were no beforeness. It's like, no, that's magic. That's fantastical. There was no beforeness. That's a nonsense. So, yeah, it's it's the structure that they have set up, and I think it comes personally. I think it comes from an error in thinking. Like Jaron, you were saying, they set themselves as the intellectual elite. Like, yeah, at one point the intellectual elite were hand in glove with the Vatican in Europe. That's who the intellectual elite were. And there's errors in some religious thinking. You said before about finding a wallet. If all children at school were told, look, we don't really know what the moon is. We don't know how this place we live on, how it was made. We don't know really the details of what's going on. Then the mystery that would be created in the child would make it so that they all understood the principles. At least they would have a personal relationship with the mystery. When they found the wallet with $1,000, they would say, somebody has lost this wallet, because, you know, the great mystery is there. It doesn't stop seeing. And they would do everything they can to find that person. There are elements of religion that also do that. But then there are also elements of religion that will just as easily create in the mind of the person who finds the wallet the idea that God left that wallet there for them. And they can justify it. They can say, I wanted $1,000 and then God sent me this wallet. It had this ID, but that's the, you know, it's, yeah, I'm echoing what you said about religion. I get what you're saying about religion. When people are good, they're good. And if you have animosity towards religion, you can say they're good despite the religion. If you're neutral towards religion, you'll say they're good and they're religious. The religion bit is not that important in terms of the goodness. Now, to people, their personal sense of integrity, their belief system, each to their own, you know. As long as the end result is goodness, I don't care whether I'm, if a disaster happens. This is when we see humanity's true nature. When a natural disaster happens, people drop the divisions. People will go and climb through the rubble to look for people that are trapped. They won't say, hey, are you an atheist? Or nobody does any of that. We go back to like a raw human state, and that raw human state is good. It's all the only thing that gives us this idea that there's a dog-eat-dog world out there is this whole status bullshit. Excuse my French.
Is this not the purpose of the globe? This is what it's for.
Yes.
So if you take away people's inquisitive nature and you lock them into this spinning ball model, suddenly they aren't capable of their independent thought and their independent rationale, or whatever you want to describe it as. They're just a droid. They become a sheep.
Yeah.
That's a fairly admirable spell that the globe conjures. I mean, the heliocentric model is a very clever spell. No one's gonna. I keep saying this. I hope people don't hate me for saying this, but I've got a lot of admiration.
I hate you for it.
Well, it's just such an amazing spell. Every time I see someone up against a massive wall of cognitive dissonance, you kind of have to sit back and go, "Wow." And it is just a magic spell at the end of the day. It's just programming. It's just non-stop reinforcement, globes everywhere, and as we've started out talking about, it's the ISS. You know, we've got proof machines. It used to be the moon landing. I mean, I'm hoping we'll touch on that a bit in this show. It's another thing that has a very literal fourth wall. But, you know, we've got these proofs and they're handed to us. Maybe we can get into the people who are lying. I know you maybe don't talk about Buzz so much these days, Jaron, but certainly the people who you categorically know are lying, like Buzz Aldrin, there's going to be an expansion point beyond Buzz. You know, who else is literally lying through the back teeth and probably laughing their head off at the same time while they swipe millions and probably billions?
I struggle with that one a little bit because in looking into the Hampstead case and some other child abuse and scandal cases, it looks like they definitely know how to mind control. And this is something that goes back to Wernher von Braun and things that he did in the OTO, you know, alongside Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons. And so if NASA is made up by some of these evil scientists, some of these German scientists who had the capability of testing on human subjects when maybe America wasn't doing that so much, say in the 20s and 30s. So the Germans were able to come up with much more sophisticated mind control come the 40s and 50s. And if that was put into place, then, you know, for instance, if they just simply, I'm sure you've heard about people who have been put under hypnosis and can completely not remember what they did under hypnosis. So is it as simple as putting Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong under hypnosis, telling them they went to the moon, bringing them back out of it, and then putting them in front of an audience and saying, tell us about when you went to the moon? And then you have to kind of take a little step back on slamming him as much as I have, because that's hard to get mad at somebody who was put under hypnosis and doesn't even remember. Now, Buzz Aldrin, that guy seems to me like he's trying to make every penny he can off of it. He sells quarters that were in his pocket, so he says. Like he just found them now or something, and he's selling quarters that, I took this quarter to the moon, and it sells for $10,000 on eBay. That to me seems like a little bit of a stretch. So I do give them a hard time, but on these guys that are up in the ISS, yeah, I think that they're lying. I don't think that I can't imagine them being put under hypnosis to the point where they're presenting things like the whole Tim Peake situation. Did you see the video I did where he basically is given an experiment by a person on Earth? It's a little track and ball, and he doesn't do it live. And he stands there and he's explaining himself do it on video when he's in a live interview. How does that make any sense? I would love for somebody who is a Globe believer to tell me why he couldn't do that experiment live. Did you see the recent footage? Somebody found, what's her name? I've forgotten the name of the person who found the footage of the cameraman reflected in the glass. Yeah, that was great. Well, this is why they're doing. I'm with you. I don't think these guys are under hypnosis. I know these guys know. I think these guys know fully well, and I think some of this. Now, this is outright conspiracy theory. I think some of this is linked to things like the Stansted paedophile ring. So there's nothing that could be done or said to me or you or Nathan or most people out there that would convince us to try and hoodwink the world. But if we were somehow associated in this world of paedophilia and murder, then yeah. So I've made a video and I made a joke. Does this guy get paid in children? Like, look, this guy is lying and he knows he's lying. He's not lying so that the elites can set up some sublime state
that requires everybody to be deluded in order for them to set it up, because otherwise people would interrupt the process. They're lying to stop a sublime state from happening. If anything, they have no intention in having the world be happy and not stressed out. So these guys are bad.
Guys, because I'm just pretend I'm stupid. From what you've said, Jaron, you've got potential for the Apollo missions to have the astronauts under some sort of mind control. Obviously, we can only speculate about what, but there's plenty of Werner von Braun that you gave as an example in the experiments they're doing. So from that point, they've got a fairly well locked up lie. But now you're saying we're at the point where we've got lots and lots of people involved who know full well they're lying, and presumably even know what they're lying about and why, especially as there's plenty of flat Earth information out at the moment. So you can only assume that at least one or two of the people who are at that level and lying know why. So presumably this must be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It will just get exponentially out there. People will talk about it if they're in on it. Would you not agree?
They would talk about it being the truth if it was.
Well, this links back to what Antonio's just said. So the only way you counter that is by having horrible things above people to hold over them, to stop them from lying. But even then, the dam will eventually crack.
To stop them from telling the truth, you mean, Nathan?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
But eventually, the way I see it is the more people who know that they are lying, regardless of what's held over them, I know Patricia Steer said, well, they just hush up any deathbed confessions. But eventually, if there's more and more people that are lying, eventually the floodwaters will, come forth. That's the way I see it. Would you agree?
I don't think that I know enough about some of these secret society families, other than to know that it's generational. And so when you look at people like Gabby Gifford, I think this person may have been born and convinced at a young age that they aren't human, that they are another race or they are another class that is meant to control us, Goyim, if you will. And so what happens is then you have somebody who has grown up their entire life thinking that they are not the same as us. And if you tell those kind of people, hey, we need you to get shot in the head and you're going to go missing for a few days, and when you come back you have to act like you're retarded, because this is part of what we need to do to continue our role as the leaders in this world, that may be the only thing that would get somebody to do something like that. I can't picture it being done as a, hey, you're a human and these people are humans and we need you to lie to them. It must come from a position of eliteness or a position of family, the bloodlines of Satan or whatever, and that these people believe that after this life is over that they either get to come back and continue it, and we wouldn't know those things. We wouldn't know if that's the truth, if that's what they're told. That those things would be hidden. And so when I look at it that way, it just makes sense to me that people would lie and deceive, thinking that they've been given some special gift from Satan to where their job is to fool us. Does that make sense? So I'm not sure that we would see sense. I'm not sure we would see a deathbed confession if you were told, if you ever rat us out, even when you die, then Satan will keep you in hell. And if you just die with the secret, you come back again in this family, and we continue our. What you can do to children is amazing. And in watching the whole Hampstead case and in talking with Ella Draper, I've really gotten an inside look at to what happens and how it is generational, and how those kids already know or already knew at the time that they would do the same thing to their kids. Mm-hmm. It was already communicated to them that they were going to be used for sexual reasons, and that they would then in turn use their children to have sex with them and to drink blood with them and to kill other kids with them. So, and these kids talk about it as a matter of fact. It's not, oh, it's disgusting, oh, this is gross. It was, this is my purpose.
This is trauma-based mind control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's trauma-based mind control. Mixed with they think that they're getting to the pineal gland through the anus. Don't ask me how the hell somebody thinks that, but that's what they think, and they think that they are transcending humanity, that they are like evolving separate from humans. And again, it just makes me think, do any of them even have a clue that everything that they're doing is not correct? You know what I'm saying? Like, if 3 grandparents ago your grandparent told your grandparents you're special and you're another race, and then they told your parents who told you, at what point can you realize it's a lie? Your great-great-grandpa who started the whole thing is dead, and your parents, if you go to them, they're going to say, no, it's true, this is what's happening, this is who we are. So are these the bloodline, are they just all dumb? Are they just all confused about who they are, and they don't think they're human, and they're going to die and do the same thing everybody else does?
I think they live in a... Sorry, Jaron. I think they live in a... They've concocted a fantastical... They've woven a spell around themselves. Mm-hmm. So right now, with the Hampstead case, all the Satanists, because that's what these people are, they're Satanists. All that they will be thinking is, look at how Satan is protecting us. Satan will protect us, and they don't end up getting lynched, so that's Satan protecting them. The world will reinforce the illusion that they have woven, and like you're saying, they won't know it's an illusion. This is where I think many of us have felt really bizarre synchronicities, thoughts spontaneously happening in lots of different people's minds, and I'm thinking, okay, the divine consciousness, I don't know what's going on, but I don't think it's beyond the divine consciousness to interrupt their spell, and reach through. If part of the point is to stop that from happening, I don't see it beyond the divine consciousness to break through the spell.
I have a little different opinion on that, because I don't think the divine consciousness can affect free will. So at no time can God step in and do anything against somebody's wishes of free will. So I don't think you can pray to have them stop, because if they want to continue doing what they're doing, then there's nothing to stop them. They get free will just like you and I get free will.
Yeah.
But I think that it can help you with strength. It can help you with ideas. It can help you with a plan to where that's not affecting my free will. If I prayed to God, if I were to have a moment where I have a spiritual connection with the divine, I could get ideas, I could have strength to go against them, because nothing is being affected free will wise. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they can stop the actual plans, but I do think that, and again, I have never done this myself, so I wouldn't know, but I mean, what do you guys think about the possibility of demons actually existing in the way of, and I don't mean demons like little beings, but I mean the evil spirit may be something that can be prayed to and used for your benefit. Obviously, we're not going to do that, because we would know the long-term implications of doing something like that. But do you think there's a chance that they do sacrifice these kids and are rewarded in some way for it?
Who wants to go first, you or me?
Me, please, because I forget the name. There was a cardinal called Cardinal Balducci, who was the head psychiatrist at the Vatican, and he explained how, this is the guy that did the last exorcism, he explained how what in the ancient days were called demons, now in the modern day we call by other names and associate them to psychiatric conditions. But he said they are the same thing. Now we just call them psychiatric conditions. In the old days we called them demons, and which they are at a fundamental level is still not really known. But if you look at how the spell weaving works, you have Luciferians who will create they call it a familiar. They will. This is Abramelin the Mage, all the magic, the Kabbalah. It explains how to create familiars. You imbue a part of yourself into a familiar. You give it its own name. You charge it with a task. Then that task is accomplished. the world reflects that to you, like for instance with these bad guys, Lucifer protecting them, and it seems to work. They've created a demon. This type of demon is called a familiar. Now, is this something that's actually happening, or is this just a rewording of the intent of casting your intent, and with the whole creating your own life, you know, where you visualize what you want, you expect what you want, you experience what you want before you have it, and then you get it. So some people, you know, the whole secret, you know, they think that way. The world reflects this. If these guys are doing the same thing but via demons, it could be the exact same mechanism. So it's an interesting question, because you could even manifest demons if a group of people get together and are all in the kind of state, in the kind of mental state where they will visualize something, they can share and experience this. The fakirs of India used to do a trick where they would throw a rope up into the air, and they would spellbind everybody listening, because they would explain to them about the magic of the world and all these things. To basically, it's neurolinguistic programming. They would program them to see the rope go up into the air and the child climb the rope and disappear at the top of this rope. So they would do this, and everybody would see this. Everybody would see the child from a different angle, the same child. Now, he's described the child to them in his speech, and people would see this. But there was and this was discovered by a crew of British tourists who went to these things, but they didn't speak Urdu, so they couldn't hear what the guy was saying. And what they saw was the guy doing all of this talking, grab the rope, throw it up into the air. The rope snapped, snapped straight. He knows how to throw a rope. This guy, is his job. So throws the rope up, stops, drops immediately. But at the point that it stops, everybody gasped, and everybody was looking up at the point at which it stopped, and they were all mystified. So you can create an illusion that to all of those Indians, they saw a child. Now, if a group of people got together and manifested a demon, they would all see a demon. Now, is that demon actually real, or is it just a mechanism by which your intent creates the world?
I think we've basically nailed it. I mean, right there, I think you're absolutely right. That's what I think is going on. An example would be, I have a friend who's a Christian, and this is about a year ago when I was having conversations with him about flat Earth and about Christianity, and he told me he knew Jesus was real. For a fact, knew Jesus was real, and I said, okay. And he said, because Jesus came to me when I needed him most and talked to me, and he said, this is years ago where I broke down. I was at my wit's end, and I prayed to Jesus to come to me, and Jesus appeared in my room before me, had a conversation with me. It was the most spiritual, enlightening moment of my life. And I asked him, would it have been weird for you if John the Baptist showed up? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, what if instead of Jesus, it was John the Baptist that showed up? And he was kind of confused. Like, well, why would that happen? And I said, well, my point is, if you would have gone in your room and prayed for John the Baptist to show up, then John the Baptist would have showed up. That you yourself summoned that moment. You created the moment that you needed with Jesus in front of you. It does not mean that the literal Jesus came into your bedroom. That I think humans are capable of so much more than we know. The problem is they've dumbed us down. They've confused our way of thinking. We no longer see ourselves as a cohesive unit and the strength that's behind the group think. And if we did, it's kind of like what Antonio just said, that something I was talking about on my radio show last night is I wish there was something we could do to prove it. Meaning if 5,000 of us got together and at the exact same time all thought about the Big Ben clock stopping, that if that could be shown to happen, then I think humans would go so far because they saw it happen. So much like the rope being thrown up and they see the kid going up and all of them think they saw it at the same time, now they're going to be even bigger believers in their abilities. And I think even as far as Bohemian Grove, right? I think you guys may have seen the video that where Alex Jones goes there and he's exposing it, and you actually hear like a voice speaking as the owl. And so I think, it's, again, easy for us to understand that maybe there's a speaker behind that, somebody with a microphone and a voice changer, but he tells everybody, if we conjure up enough thought right now, Satan will speak to us, Belial will speak to us through the owl, and then everybody's got this feeling, they're all hoping for it to happen, and then this voice comes, you fools, you're not doing anything right, you're not keeping this going, and everybody there is going to think that they just talked to the demon. And from that, then I think you can even go further, that they take these people and they keep kind of making things happen, and I do think that eventually you can change the world. And the problem is that we just don't have that belief. We talk about it, but do we ever go out and put it into play? I think it happens spontaneously. Like Antonio said, we've noticed where I'm thinking something, the next day I make a video about it, and I see a video was put out an hour before I'm putting out mine that's talking about the exact same thing. And you think, wow, what are the chances of that happening? This whole flat Earth thing seems like it happened to us all around the same time. Tons of ideas with Bob and myself and his wife, and we've had these moments where we're kind of clicking all at the same time, and I feel like we keep getting these clues, and we're just not ever alert enough, or we're not ever brave enough to attempt to make them grow, like attempt to push that further. I know for me, I don't like to pray for things because I feel like I don't, God doesn't owe me anything, so I don't ever ask for anything. I feel like by doing good, putting good out there, that's all I expect, and I hope that good will come back to me, but I never pray for it. And I don't know if that's the right thing or not. People would tell me, no, you are supposed to pray. But I just don't think that you should go to the well so often, Wait
do you believe in karma?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally think that that will come back and get you. Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to look at it. If you, even if you killed somebody, let's say you kill somebody, the rest of your life you're going to be worried about somebody finding out. So now the rest of your life will never be lived in peace. So that alone is karma. I mean, you're just going to always be looking over your shoulder. You're not going to want to answer the phone. You're not going to want to answer your door. There's going to be a knock at your door, and you're going to be frightened. So I mean, that's even karma. But I do think that how could anybody say karma isn't real? To me, I think it's obvious.
Yeah. So what you just said, it's really interesting. So people all over the place have been saying, what next? What's the next thing that we should do, that everybody should do? And there hasn't been any kind of let's all do this. There's been no kind of agreement on anything. And what I got from what you were saying is it's like we're wasting our possible ability to affect change and confirm to ourselves something that bolsters us. I'm thinking, sometimes a person receives a thought, and they're the first person to receive that thought. Later, other people, or maybe other people receive that thought too, but you never learn about them. So maybe all that's been happening, and I put this maybe in capital letters, maybe all that's been happening is lots of people have been sending out the question, what next, what next? And the reply is, Jaron, hear this thought, tell everybody to focus their time on a task that seems impossible at a point, everybody arrange, meet at that time through the internet or whatever, and do something that you can all prove. That wouldn't surprise me at all, and I think it's a brilliant idea because we've got this technology right now that makes it all possible. And I think when I heard you saying that, when you said it before, I mean when you mentioned it on Globebusters, I think it was, yeah, it's like that just makes so much sense.
You said something, Antonio, that when you want to manifest something, you have to it might have been Bob actually, but you have to visualize the steps that took you to there. So I think when you talked about it, you did it in reverse. So you said if you were sat in a Ferrari, you wouldn't be appreciating the steps that it took to get there. You just sat in it. Whereas if you go back and regress to the stages before you get into the Ferrari, you are manifesting them or visualizing what's going to happen, what those steps are. So if you use Jaron's Big Ben example, we could say, well, there's 115 people watching. We can all look at our watch and say, well, it's in the UK. We'll get onto this in a minute. It's currently just gone 1 o'clock. So you have to conceptualize, well, how would Big Ben break? Well, every quarter of an hour they have chimes that go off. That's correct, isn't it? There's chimes that go off on the quarter of an hour.
Yeah.
Well, if we were to conceptualize, well, potentially one of those cogs could have worn. They're quite old, aren't they? And then potentially on that quarter of an hour, that could break. And if all 116 people were thinking about that cog that could potentially have a flaw in it that's been worn down over time, and when it strikes that quarter of an hour, it's just an idea. We're conceptualizing something that could be. But if lots of people are all doing the same thing, there's a potential that it might actually happen. Is that kind of what you're saying, Jaron?
Yeah, exactly. Because if you think about something as if the way I look at it, at least, The Secret, the book The Secret or the movie The Secret, I think where it was wrong is in telling people to hope for something is not going to get it done. Because if I think, man, I wish I was a millionaire. Here, let me show you this dog first for a second. This is Steffi, look at.
Hey.
Oh.
Hey, everybody. See him?
Hey.
Our new puppy, her name is Steffi, and so F-E at the end is in Flat Earth. The Flat Earth mascot. Oh, stop it. My wife just went to...
She wants you to pick her up again.
I know, probably. Come here. So I do think that if we think too much about what we don't have, like if I need $1 million and I think, man, I wish I had $1 million, then are you putting out in the universe, are you asking, you're kind of putting out that you don't have $1 million, right? So you're kind of reconfirming you being broke, to where I think what Nathan was just saying is perfect. You have to imagine it already being done. So you have to already put that $1 million as part of reality, so that's what you're putting out there. This way, there is nothing in the universe saying, I hate the word universe, and I hate using those terms, but if you put it out there that you don't have it, then you're just reaffirming that. So I kind of agree with the whole clock thing. You would, I don't know if you have to say that a cog breaks, or could you just say we have the power to stop the clock, and so at 10:15 on such and such day, we're going to show that power by stopping the clock. We're going to stop the clock.
I really think that we should do this. I genuinely think we should spend some time deciding when is best for people to stop and think about it. We don't have to think about it for hours on end. We can focus and see what happens. If all we really need to do is see the hand no longer moving, see it like a freeze frame, see the background still moving, so you're not seeing a freeze frame, you're seeing a stopped clock, see the background still moving but the hand no longer moving, and then maybe looking at newspaper headlines, Big Ben stopped yesterday, but all that will really happen after the fact is it will say, and it could be perfectly true, that routine maintenance was due to take place on that day, nobody knew about it, and that's what will happen,
Right, what they say, yeah.
Yeah, a broken cog, whatever. It's like what I was saying, Nathan, when you were saying about the Ferrari thing. It's like it's not that you have to see the steps leading up to it. No, that's it. It's almost the opposite of that. You don't have to see the steps. You have to see just the being there at that point. The seeing the clock stopped, or the being in the Ferrari, or with the wonderful woman or husband or whatever. You have to see that. And what I was saying is, when you are at that point that you're in that situation, then when you look back, everything makes complete logical sense. You're with this woman because this, because that. But when you're thinking about the original points, you have no idea how things...
Antonio, you've got Jaron's question about essentially the dark side of the Force, and can the people who I said are lying actually manifest and went on to demons? Well, can you have this same, if you want to call it magical thinking or manifestation, however it's described, practiced among the elites, and therefore you have the same manifestation of the power structure or the, I can't remember what you said, Jaron, something about them being special as children or whatever it may be. You've got that spell being played out on those people as well. So it's just a different level of programming for a different type of person. You know, if they're told that they're getting the special treatment or they're behaving in a certain way because they are part of an elite, well, that in and of itself is part of that spell, and therefore they will conjure it whether they want to or not, maybe. I'm spitballing here, really.
Yeah, it's yeah, you're right. They can manifest just as much as we can manifest. The important thing, I think, for people to know is that there's a lot more good people in the world than bad. You know, there's a lot more goodness being done in the world than bad. In fact, what happens is goodness is one of those things you become familiar with and you don't notice, you become complacent. But every single time you go to a shop and purchase anything, anytime you go to a shop and purchase anything, there's a whole series of goodness events that have led to that point. Even if what you're buying is an evil iPhone 6, you know, built in China, if you only see the suicide nets, then you're molding the world for yourself where there's more negativity than there really is. So I take comfort in the thought first that the expression "it's a dog-eat-dog world out there," that's false, because dogs don't eat other dogs. They're not cannibalistic. They don't do this. So, and also that when there's a natural disaster, humans revert to their most basic state, and that's to go and help. It's not to flee, it's not to ignore, it's to go and help. That's the first most basic stage. Later, when things are calmer, you might get looting and all of that rubbish, but that's once the most natural state of human has gone. The natural state of human is cooperative. There'll be people out there who don't like the whole veganism thing. As a species, we are vegan. We are not designed to eat meat. And one way to confirm this is by if you remove yourself from the world and you look down at the other creatures on this plane, you see that the ones that live in large groups are herbivores. We live in large groups. Just in that's a clue. You know, we live in large groups and we're herbivores. That's it. The carnivores don't live in large groups. Even gorilla troops are pretty sizable. So I don't know where I was going with that. I kind of got lost there.
I don't know. I kind of always want to bring it back to flat Earth and bring it back to how we're programmed with globe stuff. I mean,
yes. Sorry, Nathan, I remembered something. When Jaron was saying about the hypnosis, when we were discussing the hypnosis of the astronauts, there might be people out there thinking, oh, I don't, you know, that might, you know, they might lean towards thinking, no, they were all lying, just straightforward lying. Who knows? But in terms of inducing hypnosis in somebody without them being aware that that's happening is definitely possible. There's the drug that's called sodium pentanol, which is
truth serum.
Yes, the truth serum. It was used in psychiatry to try to discover buried thoughts, but they found that what was happening was the line of questioning was planting thoughts of things that really had not happened. So it's not just you give this drug and their inhibitions are down. It's like they're subliminal. They're filter between the real world and the collective unconscious, or the physical world, the external world and the collective unconscious dissolves. So they can, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, astronauts, you're going to go to the moon, all kinds of medical tests. Now you have to go in here and receive this injection for this other thing. You go in there, receive the injection. Now that sodium pentanol that's where the hypnosis starts to happen. And from that point on, you have no idea that it's happened.
So you think this could be why you get people like Neil Armstrong with a total disconnect, but then they can sort of magically come up with 2 or 3 explanations for an answer they didn't have 30 seconds ago, because they've literally put the information into their own mind because of the sodium pentanol leaving them with the impression that it did definitely happen, but they just haven't got the memory to pull upon immediately. So they are, in technical terms, lying, but they're doing it through a force that they have no understanding of, maybe.
Well, this is the thing. It's kind of a philosophical question. If somebody is spreading something that's not true, but they believe it is true, are they lying? You know, is lying the action of speaking an untruth, or is the lying the action of speaking an untruth intentionally?
Well, sure, we were debating this just before we started when we were talking about the trolls, because I was saying, well, if you get a troll comment and the person is, even if they're swearing, says "F you," it is a ball because, and then providing what they put is accurate in terms of what is the current understanding, I'll happily leave a comment like that, because as far as I'm concerned, that person believes that with passion, and they're not lying, they're not on my comment forum to deceive people. They genuinely believe that. Now, they are incorrect, and they don't realise that, but they're definitely not lying, in my view. Would you agree, Jaron? Are people lying when they quote the standard rhetoric? Is Red's rhetoric an outright liar, or does he believe his own bullshit?
No, he definitely believes it. The question becomes, you know, do I think he lies? Yeah. To protect kind of what he believes, he lies. Now, with Neil Armstrong and those guys, I think with Neil, he at some point either found out about what they may have done, or got a whiff of it possibly being done, or maybe had some sort of recollection that, you know what, I remember being put under hypnosis before we went, and so he was in that struggle his whole life to where he just knew or was afraid that he would be shown if he had interviews, and that's why he kind of shied away from them. He was afraid that the truth would be shown through his words, and he just felt safer to not talk about it. You know, is he a liar? It's hard to say. I would say that lying is only when you know for a fact what you're saying is untrue. That's a liar. You know, if somebody speaks out and says something that they know for a fact is not the truth, that's a liar. If somebody's put under hypnosis and is out there lying, it's hard to say. As far as trolls, you know, the sad thing is more than half of them think we're out here saying what we're saying as liars. You know, I get called all the time. They think I'm lying. They think that I'm here to tell people that the earth is flat when I know it's not. And, you know, they're dead wrong. And that's what I try and get across to people, is that they need to understand that what I'm saying is simply what I feel and what I think is the truth. And that's it. And that's where I leave it, is I tell you not to trust me because I could be wrong. And that's why I tell people, do your own research. I'm certainly not saying I am always right. I never make mistakes. Everything I say is the gospel. I would never say that. All I'm saying is I will give you things the way I see them. I will talk about things the way I think, and take it or leave it. It just so happens when I started that back 14 months ago that a lot of people started emailing me and saying they felt the same way. They thought the same thing, but there's no avenue to say it. There's no way to say that you think the earth is flat and be safe from ridicule. So all I did was take it upon myself to say, well, I've already gotten to the point that I don't care, because you have to get to that point to come out like you or I or Antonio have. You have to get to the point where you say, truth is more important than saving face. If I lose a couple of friends in the long run, the truth is more important. That the world will be a better place for me speaking out. And one of the things I always had in the back pocket was, if I'm wrong, if what I'm saying is not correct, then me saying this will just prove that, which is all I wanted to start with. If we live on a ball, prove it to me. End of story. If I don't care if we live on a ball, it doesn't bother me. You know, I think that's one difference I have than Christians, is they've got a lot now tied into this with, it has to be a ball, it has to be flat because the Bible says it's flat. And I don't have that problem. If it's a ball, it doesn't bother me. I look at the Bible as a great book written in a time where people thought the earth was flat. So what would be surprising to me is if the Bible said the earth was a ball. That would be surprising, because then you'd be like, what? These people back then weren't put through the same kind of indoctrination that I was. So how would they have said that? But they didn't say that. They said, clearly, it's flat, it's immovable, God sits above the circle. So that makes me think that it makes sense that the Bible would say the earth is flat, and it makes sense to me that nobody today thinks that, because we were all put through the same school system that made it taught in first and second grade when you don't have the ability to question your teacher. It wasn't a discussion item. It wasn't, today and this week we're going to talk about whether the earth is a ball or whether it's not. It was taught as science, proven science, with tested, retested, and peer-reviewed, you name it. That's how we looked at it. So to me, I never cared. I still don't. If it's a ball, just somebody show me, and I will gladly, I'll be the first one to come out with a video, 10 videos, 20 videos, telling people why it is a ball. And this is how I know it for a fact. The problem is it's been 14 months, and all I've found out is more methods of deception. All I've found out is more reasons that they've lied, more history about the lie. So to me, do I think that there's a chance that the earth is a ball? No, not anymore. I don't think there's a chance. Do I think that the earth is flat for sure? Not 100%. It could be a realm. It could be a metaphysical place to where, even the map that like Free Energy's done, where there's some sort of portal. Do I think that that is 100% of that? No. I think I'm open to that, just like I'm open to anything. But I'm certainly not lying to anybody. I would never, at this point in my life, personally deceive anybody. It's just not in my interests. I feel like I want to make the world a better place, and the truth is the way to do that. How could it not be? Every confrontation we have in our lives, every argument you have with your significant other, usually is centered around a lie, that somebody is not being truthful in some way or another. If you think back to when you broke up in relationships or you had friends that you no longer have, somebody told a lie. Somebody wasn't completely truthful, and it could have been from the beginning of the relationship, and that kind of slowly started to come out. And when it came out, it caused a strife. So to me, it just is obvious that the truth is, as they say, right, the truth will set you free. The truth is the most important thing that we have as humanity, to connect, to grow. It all starts with being truthful. So to me, that's why I struggle with these trolls, if you will, because they really think like this. The guy who, I called him Nathan Oakley accidentally on the show. I know. Can you believe it? Can't think of his name right now. Whatever the guy's name is, that goes out and makes videos about how much I'm lying and how much Bob and I are having our show, and we're just lying to people, and we're sending people down the wrong path, and we're hurting the truther movement. It's all a joke. Like the fact that people even do that, go on YouTube and just flat out tell lies, is baffling to me. It wasn't until I felt strongly about the flat earth that I said, now I'm willing to go out and say this is what I believe, because I felt so strongly in that belief that I felt okay to say it. And so, no, I don't think that I'm certainly not telling anybody any lies. People love to show, they said, for instance, in my Antarctica video, I showed a video where they were showing the shadows of the stick only going halfway around, and I got a ton of comments and messages saying, you're lying, because they also show videos that show it go all the way around. And I said, no shit. Of course they do. That's the point, is that they do show the shadow going all the way around, but they have a video that they say is done in December that shows the shadow only going halfway around. I'm pointing that out because there's a problem there. If the truth was that they have full sun in December in Antarctica, then they would have videos, and all of the videos would back up their claims. I found a video that shows their claims to be bullshit. And so, does it mean that I'm saying that every video they ever put out was a lie? No. I'm just showing, that's not me lying by pointing that out. And that's what I get the strongest feedback on, or the kickback, is a lot of people saying, well, you're lying because you only showed evidence of this. Or people would say, not all planes that go down to Antarctica have no windows, Jaron. You're making it sound like all planes do. And I said, well, look it up. You might find one plane that has windows that goes down there, but 9 out of 10 planes have no windows. So as humans, we should be smart enough to draw a conclusion based on that, which is, why do the planes that go down in Antarctica not want people looking out the windows? We should be able to draw conclusions from that. And the facts, what I see people say are facts is in regards to what proves the globe, are ridiculous. I mean, one of the most recent things is in the video that I did about the ISS, somebody said, well, the fact that it goes off the air, so the fact that every 45 minutes it's removed from connection, is proof that the Earth is a ball because it loses connectivity. You know, how funny is that? It's like, no, you better not say that please don't say that that's proof of anything. You know, please don't say that that's proof, because they could be deceiving you. Proof comes without deception, right? And
yeah,
I mean, I see so many things all the time of people saying, this proves, like they say, right? The ISS, you can go out with your telescope and you can look in the sky and you can see the dot go by your house, and this proves the ISS is in the sky. It's like, no, it proves a dot goes by your sky at a certain time, and it's done on a clock, meaning it proves that if they can tell you ahead of time that it's going to go by your head. That's all it proves, and that's why I made the 24/7 video, because if they were to have a 24/7 camera that we could all track for a day, and we could see that the camera that they're showing matches the cameras that we have from the Earth showing it, then I could see it being truthful. You know, then I could say, no, this is proof that the ISS is real. But they don't show us 24/7 footage, and there's a reason why, because it's not true. And so I think it's becoming easier to tell, for me at least, deception from reality, because reality is just real. There is no need to go through all these steps. You don't need to ask somebody for a 24/7 camera to prove something if it's obviously real. And that's what we have to do. And the fact that we have to do that, I really wished was going to show more people, because I would hope in some of my videos, and I've got some more coming out, like I was saying, like the ones with the launches, I'll put that video out, and it should be conclusive to most people that we're being deceived. Instead, I will get the people who already kind of believe in the flat Earth to say, you're absolutely right, this is more proof, and I will get 75% of the people saying, I'm an idiot for ever thinking that NASA would ever lie to us. They just refuse to look at the truth. They refuse to see the truth, because I know it blows up their whole world. I mean, I understand that. It sucks. I understand that it sucks to admit you've been lied to, just like if you told somebody, if I told Antonio, your wife cheated on you, he's going to immediately deny that. Like, no, don't say that. No, she didn't. And when he finds out the truth, it's going to break his world apart, because it's not who he thought he was dealing with. It's not who he thought he knew. And that's the whole problem with this situation, is everybody has glorified NASA to this godlike status. They've put NASA on a pedestal, and they are afraid to admit what the truth is if you realize NASA's a lie, because look at everything that comes with it. Space basically is a lie. Orbits, basically a lie. All of space travel, a lie. The planets, a lie. The stars, a lie. History. Before you know it, your life is changed forever, and people are scared shitless of that. And I understand that, but I care more about the truth.
Yeah. Do you know? I think. The feedback.
Yeah, just keep talking.
Okay.
So for a few seconds.
Okay. I take comfort in the experience of having gone through. Oh, there's quite a, Nathan, is it you?
I don't know who it is. It's just one of those things.
Okay. So I take comfort in having lived through the 9/11 thing, and everybody calling me a retard for saying no. This isn't what happened. A guy in Afghanistan didn't organize this. And all those people who called me a retard and a conspiracy theorist and easily deluded, and all of them now fully understand, yeah, that guy was not in a cave in Afghanistan orchestrating things. And I think, you know, this is a much bigger thing. The globe lie is much bigger than 9/11. So the resistance that 9/11 truthers had back then, of course, we're going to see that magnified because this is such a fundamental truth that they can't accept it. But I'm convinced that in the same way that all those people had a turnaround by drip feeding, the flat earth will drip feed into people's consciousness. It will come to the point where first they will themselves stop ridiculing it, and then eventually start looking at it, and then eventually being one of the guys that says, you know what, the earth is flat. I take comfort in that. So, and then, sorry, one more thing. And then all the people who called anybody a retard, a liar, all of those things, they will forget that they called people those names. Our human psychology does this. When something doesn't match with our idea of ourselves, mentally, we delete that. We have no access to it. This is similar to when people black out from alcohol. There's a blackout. Now, you can black out from alcohol and be awake, be doing things, but you stopped recording it. And when people have behaved despicably, eventually they delete the memory of their behavior. So all the people out there, all the red rhetorics, all of these people, when they arrive at the point, I don't think res rhetoric will, but the majority of people out there who are struggling, trying to alert us that we're being hoodwinked into this flat earth stuff, when those people realize that, no, you know, nobody was being hoodwinked, we were trying to kind of wake them up. When they remember, when they realize this, they will delete all of the horrible comments they made to flat earthers from their memory bank. So it makes it easier to forgive people when you know this.
Yeah, I don't think that we should expect any apologies.
No.
They're not going to be coming. No, and I don't expect them. That's not the point of this. And I would just hope people would be honest in videos that they make. You know, I think that there is a lot of people saying deception's going on, and a lot of people saying that we're lying, and then they themselves use lies to prove that. And that's the hard part, is just be honest. I mean, the whole thing with Red's rhetoric, I did see he's going to do a debate with Zeteticism.com, and that'll be interesting. But I noticed that in their conversations, Zeteticism.com agreed to be a proponent of the flat Earth. And the whole thing with Red's rhetoric and I was, we went back and forth and talked about a debate for a long time. And I kept telling him I was not going to take the position of a flat Earth. I would debate him that his globe was incorrect. And he refused to ever have that debate. And so that was the problem, is back and forth he would always say, well, why are you afraid to, why are you afraid to bring your model to the table? And I say, because I'm not stupid. You're going to just exploit, well, how do the southern stars work? Well, how does this work? And I'm saying I don't have answers to some of those things yet because I haven't had 500 years to think about it. I haven't had 500 years to have the best scientists and mathematicians help me concoct a lie. And so he knew that. And so when I put out the video asking him to prove or to show what happened with SpaceX, and he returned it, in that video he also had his moderator come out and say the rules of the debate. One of those rules was I had to take the position of a flat Earth, which was never agreed upon. It was never even talked about. So I responded and said, no, you're lying. You're basically saying that I've already agreed to that, and I hadn't. And I still wouldn't debate somebody taking the position of a flat Earth because I can debate better right now exactly what I've always said, which is the globe is a lie. NASA is full of shit. They fake spacewalks, they fake launches, they fake the ISS. From that, if you're not smart enough to draw conclusions based on those things, then I can't help you. I have never gotten in a plane or a space shuttle and gone far enough from the Earth to tell you what shape it's in. I wish I could, but I don't have that ability right now. I don't have the money to map the world. So people say, well, where's your map? Where's your model? I don't care about that right now. What I care about is proving the current maps and the current models are incorrect. And am I lying in any of that? No. You know, I'm not telling any lies at all. I'm simply saying the way I believe. If what I believe is not true, then simply prove it to me. And then I'll go back and say, hey, what I said here was not the truth. In fact, one of the things that I think is said a lot that I don't agree with anymore is people who show, and I know I did this at the beginning, but people who show a flat horizon and say, well, this is flat, and then you see some that are a little bit more bent, and people say, well, this means it's a fisheye camera. And I no longer feel that way. I no longer feel that it would be a problem with seeing a slight curve in the horizon, because a curve in the horizon doesn't mean it's a sphere. You know, you look at a kitchen table that's flat, but it's round. No matter how you put the camera on that table, you're going to see a curved horizon. Does that mean that the table is a sphere? No, it means that the table is flat with a curved edge. And the way our eyes work, when we look at a photo, the photo's cut off, right, left and right. But our eyes work 180 degrees. You know, we can see basically if you put your arms out straight in front of you, you could see both your hands. You know, even if you spread your arms like this, you could see both your hands, which means you can see 180 degrees. So the way our eyes work, it's going to naturally bend the two outermost edges towards you. You see straight ahead, and the other two sides are coming towards you, which would create the illusion of a curved horizon. So whenever I find these things out, I'll go back and say I was wrong. You know, I was wrong in saying that we would not see a curve if the Earth was flat. That'd be the equivalent of saying that the Earth is flat and we can see as far right and left. But no, we have like a circle around us, right? So if a circle of our vision is around us, then it wouldn't surprise me if that was curved slightly, because it's flat. It doesn't mean it's a sphere. And in fact, when you look at the ISS, that footage clearly shows me that what they're looking at is a flat surface. It is not a ball. Look at the ISS. Look at it's not acting the way a ball would. A ball, you would.
You said earlier, Jaron, that the ISS image was just rendered from high altitude planes. They took it down, superimposed it on a ball. Well, do you think that's exactly what they do? Do you think the pictures that they give us from the ISS are actually legitimate in some respect?
In some respect, yeah. If you're talking about the video feed that they show us on the live view, that doesn't look anything like their pictures do. And the pictures, I think, are legit. I believe if you go to, you might bring it up for everybody if you want, but it's JSC. Let me see here, NASA images. It's the JSC feed. It's got all the photographs that they take, and they're updated every day. Let me see which one it is. And when you look at those ISS pictures, they are absolutely real. I can't see them being faked. Let me see where it's at here. Yeah, this one. So it's eol.jsc.nasa.gov, and oops, yeah, and up top they have a little search thing. One of them being latest ISS imagery, and if you pull that up, all those pictures are completely legit. They look real. They look like high altitude photographs. They certainly don't look like they're taken from 250 miles. They actually look like they're taken from about 40 to 60 miles. So all that stuff makes more sense with me. It kind of tells me they've got high altitude planes taking the images, and that's what. But you need multiple planes to do that. So yeah, click where it says latest, one to the right there, latest ISS imagery. Yeah, and then you can just kind of scroll through that bar, and you'll see that those pictures should come up here in a second. Yeah, you can take that blue little bar down there when they come up in a second and scroll through, and I think that's yesterday's pictures. It might be updated like every 2 or 3 days. But if you look at any of those pictures by clicking on them and then blowing them up, they're clearly real. They're real. Yeah, there you go. And if you find one of a better picture, like that one's kind of hard to see, but you can find one of cities. But notice that this isn't a picture with the curved edge. You know, this isn't the ball picture that they try and show us. These are like pictures of cities. And let me see here. There's a good one. Yeah, so like that one there, one of those ones. Yeah, there you go. So blow that up. I mean, this to me is not faked. You know, that's a legit picture, and you can get them as big as like 5,000 by 3,000. There it goes, 4,200. And if you bring that picture up and open it, you can get such good footage. I don't think that's faked. You know, I've tried to look at them, but I think it's taken from multiple planes. And that right there, that's not 250 miles high. So when I start finding things like that, I'm like, okay, the pictures look real, but the pictures look 50 miles high. So now I kind of can draw from that the real pictures we get are only from 50 miles high. So the 250 mile high images that they show of the Earth, that's not real, right? You know, the one from the ISS live camera.
Sure, the one that looks like a player piano that scrolls over.
Yes, yeah, the one that looks like it's done on a conveyor belt. Those aren't real. But I don't want to say from that, and then people say, well, then you're saying these pictures are fake. I'm like, no, these pictures are real. They're taken from a high altitude plane. And again, what's the fastest a high altitude plane could go? If I were to say, it would be a complete guess. Let's say 1,000 miles per hour. That's a stretch. If they're going 1,000 miles per hour, then they would not be able to give us the information they have as far as cloud cover across the world. So then I look at it and say there must be many planes. There must be a ton of them to cover the amount of ground they need covered. And the fact that I can see a light go above the sky from my view tells me that they must have another one going at the same time, maybe a state over, so that everybody can see what they think is the ISS. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, the other thing that they've got that's absolutely crazy, when they show you inside the control room and they have those sort of the path that it takes, I can never make any sense of it. It just seems like complete nonsense, the path that the single craft, if we assume that they've just got one, would actually take, and the speeds that it's involved, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, I don't think it is just one. I think it's one per kind of region. I think they've got the place split into segments, and they have a plane for each segment. That's what I think.
In time, I'll be able to prove that, because if you look at these images, they go in order. Basically, you'll see over there that there's photo ID 73680 on the picture I'm looking at. But if you were to put those all together, you'll see that the way that they go is broken up, meaning it appears one plane is taking a set of photos, but then I'm forgetting where it's at. See down there where it shows you where they're at on the map?
Down here.
Right. So if you get to the point, you have to go back in the latest ISS imagery, and there's certain ways you can look at. Oh yeah. So go to the top there where see the black square in the middle? Yeah, go that method instead. And if you go through each picture, you can watch the square on the map, and as it's moving, it will retrograde, meaning it's going and then it will pick up somewhere else and go. So that tells me that it's two different planes. Obviously, the plane doesn't reverse and go back and cover a new area. It's a new plane covering that area. So I'll be able to prove it. It just takes time. You have to look into it. Right now, I've been stuck on this super helium balloon. So, and loving that, because I've always, it's kind of that rewarding moment where no matter what I did, and I told Bob this from day one, and he even agreed, that I said, when I watch a launch, it does not look real in any way. It looks fabricated, and people like Reds Rhetoric would say, I'm there, I go there, I watch it.
But how far away is he? I mean, they're like 10 kilometers plus, are they not?
Yeah, 11 miles.
11 miles, wow, that's a huge distance.
Right.
And are they seeing a rocket going up, or are they seeing a fakir throwing up a rope and watching a child climb it?
I think they're seeing a hot air balloon go up, and I think that the smoke is, it's like a big smoke bomb. It's a big smoke bomb going up, and then you can project this fiery-looking into flames. Have you ever seen the flames? They look completely fake. Yeah. It's like that's not real flames, which coming out of it.
What's the smoke? When you say smoke and mirrors, have they literally got a smoke machine, or is this chemtrails? I mean, what are they projecting onto?
Yeah, I mean, if you bring up a launch to watch, the very first thing that happens is we see this huge amount of smoke start pouring out the sides of the little vent down below, which creates this kind of smoke base. And then the balloon starts going up, and I haven't really determined yet for sure, but there must be some sort of apparatus connected to the bottom of it that creates smoke, because the smoke coming out of the bottom of it, plus the smoke coming from the bottom up, gets that backdrop for them to create an illusion. They can create a picture, and it was so funny when I found this patent, and I'm looking up, and who owns this patent? And there it is, Walter Disney. And I said, okay, that seems to make a ton of sense. And from there, it just became, now I can't even watch a rocket launch anymore without it being painstakingly obvious. Any launch, just bring up a space shuttle launch and watch it. It is obviously a balloon. I don't know yet, as far as the thing flipping over or how they control it. Is it remote controlled? Is it, who knows? It could be a million things. I don't know what it is, but it's not real.
Yeah.
Bring one up. Let's have a look.
Yeah, just bring up a launch. Yeah.
So I'm curious, and there are people out there. I don't know if people send you emails and messages with ideas, or observations that are like really cool. But I'm wondering, like, what the heck made you think I'm going to see if there's a patent for this? What process was that? Were these just ideas popping into your mind?
As far as the patent for it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah, because recently I've realized how patents work, and that, as soon as somebody discovers something, the first thing that happens is there's a real push on basically getting that on paper so that somebody owns the rights to it.
Yeah.
And so if there's something going on as far as a projection, I knew right away that somebody had to have a patent. For instance, we don't know, at least I wouldn't know, if somebody said, is there a way to project something on a blank background, meaning just the sky?
Is this what you mean by the smoke? Sorry, Jaron, that's the
correct.
Smoke.
So now that right there, see the smoke that's coming out of the bottom is just like a smoke bomb, and since the balloon is going up, you're seeing a projection projected on the smoke that's going up. I've been looking into a lot of the shuttle launches more than anything, and if you watch this long enough, if you were to slow this down, and I've got a video editor now that I can slow things down, that fire is moving left and right. It darts back and forth left and right, because it would be impossible, not impossible, it's very difficult to keep the projection lined up perfectly with the balloon. And it's definitely more obvious in the space shuttle launches. But when they zoom in, and many times you'll see like a rendering issue, like Crow does on his moon wave. I found several launches that completely show you that there's like a problem there. And just these flames, if you look at that, when you break that down, when you go into like an editor and you take away contrast and add gamma and stuff like that, you can actually see that this is like there's boxes, pixels over that fire, and it just looks completely like a smoke bomb, basically. And you've seen before the space shuttle. Oops, you've seen before the space shuttle before that as it's going up, you basically see this huge line of smoke. You seen that one?
Sure.
Yeah, the huge gust of smoke. That one there. That's why I think that one is putting out some sort of a. I call it a smoke bomb. I don't know how else to describe it. But on some of these, like this particular one here, it wouldn't surprise me if this was being launched out into the ocean. So this wouldn't. This doesn't have to be a helium balloon, because what is so hard with launching a rocket into the ocean? Now, other things like the space shuttle, that's more of what I'm talking about with a helium balloon. Like, for instance, this here could be possibly a rocket with fire coming out, but you'll notice that there's not the huge thing of smoke.
No, there's no smoke trail coming off it as far as I could see when it was on the wide shot.
So now go to a shuttle. Go to just look up I don't know, STS-151. That's another fun thing you can do. Just go to go to YouTube and look up STS followed by any number, basically one to, and you could just watch every shuttle. And if you go back and watch STS-1, watch STS-2, you can watch them progress as their ability to fool you gets better.
Right.
They're going to, of course, they're learning how to do it better and better and better. Obviously it's not going to be as primitive as, I think STS-1 is a great example. STS-3 that I remember offhand. They're clear. I mean, it's so obvious. So once you know that, then you can look at each new launch in a new way. And I haven't decided yet if the entire thing is a balloon, meaning both the red thing and the shuttle, or is the shuttle just like a really light glider that goes off? And that could be why, how they do the roll maneuver, where they get up and then the thing rolls. Well, that could be because of the weight of the shuttle versus the helium balloon. So it gets up there and it has to roll on its back because it's heavy. And then it's going off. And I was telling my wife, I was like, see, I bet you they don't even need to go out sideways. Like, that's what they tell us, right? But we all think, why wouldn't you just go straight up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they say, oh, no, we go out the side. But if you understand a sphere, that's the same thing. Going out the side is the same thing as going up. You're just confusing us with words.
Yes.
And right? And again, watching these videos, they pull that door away, and why didn't we ever get to see the people walking from the door into the space shuttle, getting into their seats, them close and lock the door? They don't show you that. They because they can't.
It's because it's a scale model. It's much, much smaller. I mean, I once caught a transition shot where they had people close enough to the pad to give you scale, and it's just so much smaller, the thing they actually launched, that is, than what they give you as measurements in NASA's documents and on Wikipedia and things. It seemed to me be about a 1/3 scale model that they actually launch out.
And that's part of the patent too, is the way to make what they're sending up much smaller than the actual. I'm sorry. Yeah, what they're sending up is much smaller than the appearance would be, just simply using mirrors. It's kind of like a mirror reflecting, then back, and you put that up, and that's what people see, especially from a distance. When you watch these things, they are classic. The video is going to be hilarious because I've found 15 different clips that are absolutely atrocious. But go to right where it launches, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, STS-1.
Mm-hmm. And the way that you've all seen it before, when the things on the side start spitting out water or whatever they're spitting out, the whole thing is just completely fabricated. And
you see the twang. Do you know what the twang is?
No.
So as they launch the solid booster rockets, it's being held obviously with a lot of force, and it will move and then snap back, and they call that the twang just before they release it.
Oh, like the black things, how they kind of go up and down?
No, the whole structure, the whole rocket ship will literally brace against the force and then snap back into position just before they let it go. And
like when you stop in a car and you put your brakes on, but just before you stop, you don't release the brakes. You just keep your brakes on, and the car does that boom.
Okay.
Yeah, they call that the twang. That's what NASA call it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the smoke, and so that's being blown out of what? And what it's creating is a backdrop for them to shoot this picture on. And even in the patent, it talks about how to handle clouds, how to make the rendering of the cloud stop when look at the offset reflection that you always get. And these things are explained in the patent. There's definite problems with doing this and it looking real. is because it's just offset. It's going to be a problem keeping that lined up. And you'll see it all the time where this flame will go. Now notice too how the sky turns black. Like it was completely daytime before. And they'll make the sky turn a really dark black or blue. It's just easier for them to show it's all faked. Now there must be something coming out of there that's leaving that big cloud layer for them to shine something against. But yeah, this one here, if you watch, you'll just see it never even looks like where are those flames coming from. It's so bad.
Do you know what I've always wondered? So you have these rockets, like the latest ones. Why don't they fly off like a ballistic military missile?
Absolutely.
You know, they should just be, start up and then gone.
Well, I've spoken to a few people who've said that they've seen launches, and they've said that, well, they've all said the same thing, which is it goes like an absolute bat out of hell. It is ridiculously fast. And then when you look at the footage, it's not. It's quite slow. And then when you speed the footage up, it looks a lot more realistic.
And when they're filming it, like when we had the SpaceX rocket filmed from the side with what looks to me like a Bunsen burner, that fire. So what kind of camera is tracking that? Because if this is traveling at this speed, a bat out of hell. So it's staying pretty much central in the camera. So what are they doing? And it doesn't seem like the angle is shifting, it's permanently from the side. Have they got another rocket somewhere else traveling at the same speed, filming rocket one?
Right.
Is that what is this?
Yeah, I wish I knew everything that they're doing. And I think the problem is right now, nobody's looking into it as a possible deception. And that's what I'm trying to get out there. I mean, I'll admit 110 times over, there's a million people in my state, in my in my general area, smarter than me, and it's just we need those people to get a hint of a deception, and they'll find it out. There's just people who have never dreamt of the possibility that NASA's fooling us, and so what I'm trying to do is, I know I'm not smart enough to figure it all out, but I want to get enough information out that somebody says, well, let me disprove this guy. Let me look into it and show him he's wrong. And I think if enough people do that, some of the smartest people will definitely wake up to the truth, which is it is a deception. If you watch it with that skeptic's eye, which people do only after hearing my videos enough or hearing what everybody's talking about, then they watch it with the skeptic's eye, and then they'll see, wait a second, there's a problem here. When you watch every ISS film, when you watch the live footage, I can no longer look at that without thinking that it's a balloon. That big red thing is a balloon. It's a huge helium balloon. And if you look up who owns all of the helium in the world. It's NASA. NASA has an underground storage of the helium, and supposedly we're supposed to be out of helium by the year 2100. That NASA has expended the entire amount of helium on the Earth. It's like, what are they using all that helium for? Well, because they're filling huge balloons, that crazy size. It just seems obvious now to me at that point. It's interesting what you're saying about the speed difference, because then that makes me think possibly Red is lying when somebody like that who goes to the events never mentions anomalies like that. Why isn't he saying, you know what, it is funny when I go there, it certainly appears to be launching much quicker than the video footage shows. But also, I think that they line up the cameras, and I'll just put this out there because I don't know the reason why, but before launches, and I've only heard this on the occasional launch, they go through a checklist where the announcer says a bunch of people's names, not people's names, but like code names, and the people say go, 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 all these different avenues, and I've heard twice them say red line monitor, and that person responds go. And it's made me think, is he just one of the camera people for the launch, and he's just confirming he's ready to go? I mean, that right there is so freaking fake. Where's all that smoke coming from? It's like, what is going on there with the smoke? And then you get that up, and you've got this smoke blowing out, and if you just watch that red line, it is a projection. There's never, like, see right there, you'll see that kind of haze or that glow right there. You can see it. The glow is on the entire backdrop, but only the smoke is showing you. You know what I'm saying? By shining a light on that whole thing, you can see that it's also shining left and right of the fire. See that?
Yeah.
But that's not. It only is picking up what has a backdrop. There's no way to portray an image on empty space, but you can see it occasionally, like there where the cloud was. The whole thing lit up because the projection is being shined on the whole area underneath the shuttle. But
I think sorry, I just saw something. When they go through the cloud, you know, and it all lights up, and they quickly cut away to this view that we're seeing now, I think they might have done that because if they carried on showing that cloud from that point of view, we might have seen that the cloud didn't have the vortex effect that it has when a jet goes through it.
And sometimes they'll actually, I'm sure you've seen it before, where they will go behind a cloud and the cloud covers it like the light goes out, which is ridiculous. That would be the equivalent of saying the sun behind a cloud would completely go out. Like, no, we know that it brightens the cloud. It makes the cloud look like it's glowing from the inside. Yeah. And it doesn't do that a lot of times. But sometimes they'll cut away, like you said. Now here, this is like to me, like there's no fire scene there. So, that just, and, these views here, when you get this, I'll show a lot of times where they'll show it rolling on its back as if it's going sideways, but this view never changes. So if it's something's going upright and then turns and is going upside down, that should change your view.
Hey, check it out. We're on a globe already. You can see the curve. We're already on a globe.
Yeah. But what you're saying, Jaron, is the background. If it's rolling, then the background should be rolling opposite to whatever roll the thing is doing.
Yeah. Usually, when you get the rocket point of view, you'll see the takeoff. The launch pad. Well, they keep showing the launch pad, and then they'll take off, and it will roll on its back and start going the other way. Then they'll show the view again, and you can still see the launch pad, which wouldn't be the truth. If it was going up and then turned at all, your new angle would be next to the launch pad or further down. But they keep showing you the launch pad. It's too hard to prove to a skeptic's eye.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To somebody who's bought into this, and I know that for a fact, when I was showing Red's Rhetoric the launching of the satellites and showing him why I thought that it was a lie, he flat out says in that video, well, show me. I haven't seen this before. And so I say, that's exactly my point, is you have gone into this just thinking it's all real, it's true, I have no reason to look into any of it. And if you go in with that mentality, how would anything ever be shown to you as being fake? You've already come to the conclusion that it's real, so you don't look at it with a skeptic's eye. And I was trying to get him constantly, look at this with a skeptic's eye. And when he does, and I show him that those CubeSat satellites are being pushed off, and then the moon starts moving, which would mean the craft is moving, but then the moon will stop. And I'm like, well, what's happening? Is the craft stopping? And he says, possibly? And I said, there's a problem there, dude. The craft doesn't stop. It's orbiting the Earth. It's going at a constant speed. So I thought by getting these kind of things to him, he would wake up to, wait, let me look into this deeper. But he's gone the opposite way, which is, I'll now show you why, flat Earth is stupid and why this is the truth. But he doesn't care about the truth. He cares about, at this point, proving what he's already said, which is we're a bunch of idiots who don't know reality, and space is real. So, do I think he's being honest? I would hope so. I certainly would hope so. But at the same time, he could be just part of the group of deceivers. If you watch the video that he just put out yesterday or the day before where he's talking to both Zeticism.com and Sean Hufford, who's going to do the moderating, they're talking about a date. What date are we going to do this? And Red's Rhetoric says, well, I can't do it Wednesday or Thursday because Wednesday there's a launch, and Thursday I have something else I have to do at Kennedy, at NASA. So my recent research has been what's going on Thursday at NASA that Red's Rhetoric supposedly has to be a part of because he may simply work for them.
Ah.
So
and this would explain him not wanting to show his face, which Nathan and I, he invited me into a debate, into a hangout, and I said, sure, you know, the minute you switch your camera on, I'll jump in. And this came on the back of Nathan saying, I have a simple question for you. You should be able to answer it. What's your name? And you know, nothing. So the guy's a coward, basically. That's what the guy is.
And I wish people could see that too. And that was, I thank Bob for that. I think a lot of people for pointing that out to me, is that, you know, they first said, hey, you've got 30,000 subscribers. He's got 2,000. Why are you doing this? And I say, because I don't care about how many subscribers I have. I've never cared at all. And I don't think that should mean, oh, well, I shouldn't give him the luxury. No, if it was going to be a real debate, I don't care. I don't care that I'm giving him views. If we can have a real debate, let's have a real debate. But then the person that really changed my mind was people saying, aren't you worried about the fact that you are putting yourself out there? Shouldn't he as well? And the more I thought about it, I'm like, hold on a second. This guy gets to go preach on behalf of science. Like, how hard is that? You basically get to come with the arsenal of truth. Okay, that's what people believe in. They believe science is the truth. So I'm going up against truth in a debate. Well, you know, I still think I can beat truth in a debate, because I think my truth will kind of squash theirs. But if he gets to do that without the luxury of, or with the luxury of getting to be anonymous, then I have a problem. Then I start thinking, wait a second, you already get the luxury of bringing a briefcase full of facts, so-called facts and so-called truth, whereas my briefcase has to only come with things that show that your facts may not be true, that should call them into question, and I'm willing to do that with my real name. People know my address. It's, you know, we own a bookstore. You know, things come with return addresses on them. So I basically have known that, you know, I'm out there, and the least he can do is do the same. To where you look like an idiot if you're going to call people names and be found out in the future that you were wrong. And he doesn't even have that much respect to say, you know what, I'm willing to put my name on the line, that if in the future it's shown that I was wrong this whole time, and if he's wrong, he's wrong. I have nothing against people being wrong. I understand. I went to school. I was deceived. I was taught the lie just like everyone else. The problem becomes when I'm trying to give you some reasons you should possibly look into it, and you respond with flat-out insults and calling me names and you're an idiot, and then he went as far as insulting my wife and things like that. Then I just don't have respect for you anymore. That I'm not attacking people. I'm trying to say, hey, let's look into this together. That with this world of 7 billion, let's say, people, we should be able to easily detect deception. But when you've got people like him running around saying it's not a deception, you definitely have caused problems for us who are saying, all we're saying is look into it. All we're saying is let's explore it. If the Earth is a ball, then prove it, and we'll all come out and say we made a mistake, and the world goes forward. And this is even more proof if in 50 years somebody comes out and says, no, the Earth is flat. Everyone will say, no, we thought that back in 2015 and 2016. A bunch of people were saying it, and here's what proof proved them wrong. So you're just building up more backing for the current truth, but that's not what we're getting.
Exactly. We'd all be over the moon if somebody just took Joe Bloggs Public up on a rocket, if such a thing was possible, and he took a Kodak camera with him, took a picture of the globe, and came back and went, there you go, idiots, it is a globe. I'd be over the moon if that actually happened, and I could believe that it was true. Or if they sent me up, you know, I'd be delighted. I signed up for the Lynx Apollo program. I wanted to go up and see what's up there, as most of us probably do. If we looked deep inside our hearts, we'd say, yeah, we'd love to go up and actually have a look for ourselves. The reality is we can't.
Yeah, and I have a friend who said to me, what would you do if you could go on a rocket and see the globe? How would you react? And I said, I would go, it's a globe. And then I would try and explain to people that it is a globe. And I said, what would you do if instead of going up, you couldn't go up because there's some barrier, but you went out over Antarctica and you got to the point where you could see all the continents spread out? on a flat plane, what would you do? And he said, well, if that happened, my head would be mashed. I wouldn't have it. That was his actual answer.
I've actually heard somebody say something like that. Like,
yeah,
the fact that we exist is proof of the globe, because if it was flat, we would all be dead.
Yeah.
That's their reasoning for it being. I've heard somebody else say, I know how spheres work, and at the center of all planets is a ball of magma, and magma comes out of volcanoes, therefore we're a sphere. And it's like, okay, great, yeah, you know, if you want to go in with the presupposition that everything you've ever been told is true, and nobody would ever lie to you, and we know exactly what's in the center of the sphere, even though we've only been 8 miles out of the 3,900 mile, you know, diameter. I'm sorry, radius. It's ridiculous. It's just the facts, the reasons that people give for knowing that they believe in the truth are baffling to me. I've yet to find one that makes me question what I'm saying. The only thing that's made me question it, the launches and the ISS. And both those, the more I look into them, the more I'm being shown the ways they deceive us with those items. I'm not finding any truth in it at all. My wife, her biggest contention, the one thing that she keeps going back to, is she struggles with the people in the ISS. She just keeps saying, I cannot believe that those people would lie like they're lying. And that's been it's a tough one, because when they look out the window when they're on the ISS, we think it's green screen, just like in the video I did where I looked out my living room window to the green screen. So if they're doing that and they're not seeing the Earth, then they're absolute liars, right? So I mean, that's a hard thing to picture, is these people lying every day, the girl with her permed hair, and all the jokers that are up there, and all the missions, the people who are out doing spacewalks, probably in a pool or some sort of film set. You know, that's pretty tough to picture, that many people lying. But it certainly does not mean that's not evidence of the truth. You know, there would still be other proofs besides just these people say so, and that's what I can't find. And again, math. What is math really? I go back to that all the time. That, you know, I could prove easily that, you know, 1.5 million plus 2.5 million is 4 million. So if I said, you know, well, this proves that that's true, it doesn't prove I have that much money. Just like orbital mechanics, which Red likes to throw at me every day and say, orbital mechanics, that proves the truth of the globe. I say, no, it proves that if a globe was the truth, that these things are possible on the globe. But it certainly doesn't prove, and I've said that lately to people, prove to me orbital mechanics is real. And, you know, I think you said it great, Antonio, when you have those guys, man. I've had to listen to that 3 or 4 times. Just the hilarity of the 10 to 15 second silence after you asked them about the planet spinning and Newton's third law. I mean, that was golden. That was absolutely brilliant. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed it too. I've watched the clown version. I've watched that over and over. I love the sound of somebody. It sounds like they're shuffling their feet.
Yeah, it sounds like papers. Like somebody papers moving.
Yeah.
And then the guy says something at the very end. He says, like, well, it's like I just can't stop laughing, because it was so perfectly played out to where here's these guys saying, I mean, first of all, you're saying that Newton's laws aren't real, and I hear one guy talking to some other guy where he's saying he's cherry picking. He's cherry picking. He knows it. It's like, what is he cherry picking? The 3 fundamental laws? Like, you can't. It's not cherry pickable. You know, you're pointing out one of the fundamental flaws in physics, and they're saying you're cherry picking. So then that goes over, and then they all can't wait for their turn to talk. And even the whole crashing thing, you know, even as you said it, I'm like thinking, Antonio, doesn't seem like a good argument. And as I'm thinking in my head, and I'm thinking, okay, the crumbling of the, and I'm like, no, that's an action. The crumbling is an action. Where is the opposite? And, you know, it comes to my realization at the same time, and I think those guys all had the same realization. When you said the planet's spinning and flying through space, what's the opposite and equal? I mean, there is no answer, because there isn't.
Yeah, and the guy who says he's cherry picking, who's the guy who said that a theory is a fact, and when I've explained to him that a theory is not a fact, he says yes, but a theory is a fact. It's like, dude, you've just agreed with me and directly
in science.
In science. And he does this growling thing, you know, he's really getting exasperated. He's like, ugh. But this guy, when I first became a flat earther, before I made any video, some friends of mine and I saw a gibbous moon. We saw one of these impossible moons to see. It was almost midday in the UK, and we're seeing a large gibbous moon, which should be round the other side of the horizon on the wall. It should be round, you know, where we can't see it. And this guy jumped in and started arguing with me. The guy who's saying in science it's a theory, and the guy who's saying next after he thinks he's made his point that cars that are not traveling are the equal and opposite reaction to car crashes. Now, okay, so all those cars in car parks and traffic lights and, you know, curbs, they're all results of... Anyway, so he said to me that I was talking shit because the moon that I say that we saw and we took a photograph of with both the sun and the moon with a wide-angle lens. We took a photograph. There's the sun, there's the moon. He told me that I was talking shit because I said the moon was to the north-northwest of the UK, and he said I was talking shit because they could see that moon at that same time from Australia, and from Australia the moon should be overhead from the UK. I'm like, well, dude, I was at the UK, it was not overhead. You're thinking it was overhead because you've just been given a direction on a globe, and you're assuming, but I'm telling you now, I have a freaking photograph. He wouldn't have it. He wouldn't. So, and this is the guy. That's why I went into the thing, because the guy was there. I'm like, right, come on, you little cretin. So, but I just love it, the way that it worked out, because it wasn't properly pre-planned, you know, and I had a guest here. So when I've said the thing about the accident, and he's saying, next.
Right.
That's when I said the globe, and he's just like, you can hear him go,
just silence and anything. Well, it's it's so funny. Yeah, that's a good one. I think, did you guys see the interview we had with Max Egan?
Yeah.
So when he explains his plane flight and describes the discrepancy in the compass, I mean, little things like that are just more ammo, more, you know, just make you feel so good because you're like, yes, those things are the facts that need to come out and be shown to people so that they realize there's an absolute problem, that the globe is just not true. Yesterday we went to dinner with my wife's family's in town from Montana, and we went out to dinner. We stopped at a place called J&J Surplus over in Moss Landing. It's like a huge military surplus place. I was excited to go in there. I just wanted to see some of the stuff they had. Well, I got stuck looking at their compasses, and I found this one compass. It's like $250. It was World War II compass. And I'm looking at it, and I told the guy that worked there, I was like, this is broken, because I was like looking, and I said, it's opposite. I said, the north is showing me south. He says, oh, yeah, that's a southern hemisphere compass. And I said, why do you need a different compass in the southern hemisphere? And he said, it's just the way compasses work. I said, okay. And I'd never seen one before. I'd heard people talk about them. I heard Aaron Dover talk about them, and I had never heard that. I was like, no, a compass works no matter where you're at. But to hold a southern hemisphere compass, just more things like that are happening to me where it's just absolute proof that we were definitely deceived. And the amount of things that they had to go through to deceive us is amazing. It is unbelievable. The products, I mean, have you ever tried to read a physics book or something about, they have entire books there at this store that are basically when you're sailing, how there's the declination of the compass, right? So wherever you're at, you have to add or subtract a certain, I mean, those entire books are because of the lie. Mm-hmm. There is no other reason for that other than where your compass tells you does not work perfectly with, and my wife was saying, well, does that help you with a GPS? And I said, no, no, no. I said, this is done before GPS. GPS has put these numbers into form so that your GPS lies to you. Whereas before, people had a compass, and the compass told them the truth, and the book lied. So the compass says I'm here, well, I must not be. Flip through the book, look to exactly what that says. Okay, I'm actually at this location. And I said, no, the GPS has taken all these numbers and put them into a formula so that it lies for people. I said, now it's just easy. The lie is easy. You know, whereas before, shocks me that people like Captain Cook and these guys, and again, I don't even know if they did. They could have told people the Earth must be flat. Captain Cook flat out says that from all his observations that the Earth is not spinning. That to him it looked like the sun was going around the Earth. He also was upset every day. Every day he's 22 miles off. Every day, 19 miles off where he should be. You know, these things should show people this is the best, according to science or according to navigation, right? One of the best explorers ever. Yet, no matter what he did, he could not drive his numbers. Well, the reason why is because the Earth isn't a ball. Mm-hmm. And it should be evident to people that it's not. And I know it is evident to a lot of people, but you're right. We need to do something on a massive scale. You know, that's why I would hope that as I'm exploring this whole launch thing, if I ever found something that was big enough to where we could put a movie out or a commercial, something to where...
Well, there was a nice moment with Max Egan where it's spanning off from what you basically said. So he's explained about the compass and it not matching what's in front of him on his screen, presumably on the chair in front. And he said, well, no, it's not tested, it's not been verified, we haven't repeated this, so you can't just take that. And I heard the smugness in Bob's voice, and he said, well, no, Max, but it's just something else we can add to our preponderance of evidence.
Yes. Hey, can I screen share a minute, Nathan? Can
sure, yeah.
Yeah. So will this show on the...
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to click this. Okay. Am I screen sharing now? Guys?
You need to click present to everyone as well, Antonio, I think.
Okay. A second.
So what are you sharing with us?
So I am presenting to everyone. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see the map right now?
Nope.
Nope.
Oh. So.
Stop presenting. Let's just try again. We've not got your screen up, but you're not presenting to us yet, Antonio.
Okay. So let me see. Sorry about this. So.
I don't see it.
Was it difficult to, while you're doing that, Antonio,
yeah.
Was it difficult to have that conversation with Max? I know there was terrible audio problems while it was all going on.
No, I mean I don't think so. I guess I didn't know that was going to be his argument. Him and I had talked months before that. Somebody had messaged me and said, hey, Max is saying this is a PSYOP, and I think it's really important that you talk to him. And so I did reach out to him, and we exchanged Skype messages, and then we finally talked on the phone, on Skype. We had a good half hour or an hour conversation, and I understood where he was coming from in basically saying that we couldn't know either way, and so it wasn't worth, it was just going to cause friction. But I kept telling him, you're missing the point, Max, that somebody is saying they do know. And not only that, they taught it in schools. They put it in books. They preach it as if it's the end-all, be-all of science. And I said, the problem with that is, you're right, we don't know. So if we don't know, why are we letting people tell us that they do? And he said, yeah, but you're saying that you know that the Earth is flat, and you don't know. And I said, but I do know that they're lying about knowing. And when you start to look at everything, as Bob always says, the preponderance of evidence leads me to know that they must be lying for a reason. You know, I've always said, if you go to the store and you come home and your wife says, where were you? The only reason you would ever lie is if you've got a reason to lie. You don't just say, I was at the gym for no reason. There's just no reason to do that. Unless you happen to meet some girl at the store and you don't want your wife to know that. So you come home and say, well, I was at the gym. So you're lying. So the fact that NASA's lying to us, the fact that science is lying to us, tells me there's something behind the lie that they don't want to tell us. That tells me, based on everything I've seen, that either we don't live on this ball, that we can't go to space, that planets aren't real, that what science has told us up to this point is a lie. And so I kept trying to tell him that, and he never saw it, and we kind of ended the conversation with, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, you keep doing what you're doing, end of story. And then about 2 months later or whatever, when Dave Weiss called me and said, hey, I want to have a hangout with Max, will you be on it? And I said, no, absolutely. And then we met him before, 5 minutes before the thing started, and he had kind of just said, I thought that his argument was going to be, oh no, because I forgot, there was the day before that, he had talked to me again, and he was trying to point out this 1 arc minute, this 1 degree of arc per arc minute or whatever, and was saying that our calculation of 8 inches per mile squared wasn't correct. And so I was trying to get him to explain that to me, and he was unsure of it as well. He just basically said, well, I had this guy that has a theodolite tell me these things. I said, okay, well, I'll look into that. And then the next night we were supposed to be on, and Dave called me and said, let's have this conversation with him and try to explain our side. And during that conversation, the thing that bothered me is he came out with this whole thing of, I don't like the way it's being presented. And then it became hard, because I was saying, hold on a second, I'm the one presenting it. I'm one of the ones presenting it. And so what are you saying you don't like the way it's presented? He said, well, it's being presented as a psyop. And then I was kind of taken into an area I wasn't ready to conversate about, because I said, what do you mean? That is he saying that I'm a psyop? That I'm like working? Then it just kind of got, I don't know, I kind of got argumentative. I wish I wouldn't have gotten like that, but I didn't understand what he was saying at that point. I'm like, you're saying that you don't like the way it's presented. It's being presented as a psyop, and I'm one of the people presenting it. So what are you saying? And he just never would, well, I don't like the way it's being presented as a psyop. It's being presented as a way to move people apart and disconnect people from the truth, and it's not going to get anywhere. And that just bothered me, because I was saying, well, you're saying that you don't like the way I'm presenting it. And then I asked him, what don't you like about my videos? And he said, well, I've actually never seen one. I just read the comments.
Paused them and read the comments. That was...
I'm like, yeah, then I was just like, whatever. I mean...
Well, I think, Jaron, what he was doing was he was experiencing the world solely subjectively. And when he said to you that he didn't like it because it was being presented as a psyop, I get all these emails and I get all these abuse for not looking at it. And he's just seeing people who are saying to him, separate people not working together as some concerted effort, lots of different people urging the same thing, as being some targeted effort against him, because he's seeing it subjectively. He's not looking objectively and considering that these are lots of different minds who all have the same question regarding him and the flat earth. So when you asked him about your videos, because you were hearing him saying what you just said now, that he didn't like the way it was being presented, you being one of those people doing the presenting, he didn't make that clear when he explained it's all the way people are abusing me, all these emails and stuff. I was here listening thinking, dude, you're not the only mind in this world, there are other minds. Right. You're not the only one here.
And that's just say that I haven't looked into that, but these guys are doing a great job looking into it, and that's where there's so many other people like that Jeff C. clown. The guy is, in my opinion, he looks into good subjects. He does bring up deceptions going on in these hoax activities and these false flags. And for him to then say, we're lying about this and we're trying to hurt the truth movement, it's like, you're hurting the truth movement. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody else's research. If they haven't looked into the flat earth, I wouldn't expect them to know the truth yet. And so rather than him look into it and actually explore, he just goes off on these rants about how we're controlled opposition and that it just makes no sense to me. It's like, how would that even be possible that the government wants people to find out the earth is flat? It's the absolute biggest conspiracy that there is. It would open up the world to realizing everything else could in fact be a conspiracy, and in fact most of it is. And instead he wants to go off and call it a psyop. It makes no sense. Like, what kind of psyop is it? What is psyops make sense when you look at them in terms of the reason that they're put out there, the reason that they do these hoax events or false flags, all make sense. Call those a psyop because they are. They're psychological operations because the government, a long time ago, and science, a long time ago, learned how to attack people's feelings. Meaning you can show a video of something happening and people feel like they're a part of it. They can actually feel hurt and sorrow for the people who died by seeing those images. Whereas, let's say before the TV, there was no way to really, you could do it on radio, I guess, but even before that, you could go and describe to somebody, oh, yesterday I saw this person get murdered, and somebody has to kind of picture that in their mind, and it doesn't allow you to connect with the event as easily as the TV does. The TV brought the ability for people to see something and feel it and change their attitude about things based on the pictures on the screen. And that's why I put out the video recently of George Bush admitting that they put out prepackaged news stories in order to influence people's opinions. That's exactly what they're for. And when we watch the news, we think we're watching objective news, right? We think we're watching this reporter who's got nothing on the table. They're just going and investigating a certain event and bringing us the news. But to find out that they're in fact being given that footage, they're putting it for us to see, and we're under the assumption that they went out and did some sort of investigation, and to find out that that is actually being produced by the government, it just kind of leads you to understand the whole idea of a PSYOP and exactly the purpose of it. They're trying to attack your mental view of things. It's the same thing with racism, everything else that goes on. These are just meant to make you racist. There's no other way to do it. They want you to see these black people struggling and fighting and looting in Chicago over this white cop who killed the black, because it just incites anger in people. It makes half people say, well, why are they so upset? It makes black people say, well, this is why we're so upset. And you're just creating division between humans. And what is division? What is race? What is nationality? It's words. We're all people. We were all born here accidentally, meaning there's nobody who gets to choose, I want to be a white man, I want to be a black man. We are born as humans. And why we can't just see that and attack the tyranny and attack the cultural bias towards, is there a bias, black people versus white? Of course there is. Of course they put black people in a community to where it's mostly black people and they don't have jobs and they struggle. They're creating the ghetto. And they do that so that there is class problems, so that there's always fighting between us while they operate in elite land and care less about us. And they keep, every once in a while they'll give a handout to the people in the lower class. They'll give a handout of free Obama phones, whatever it takes to get people to say, well, the government's taking care of me. They're trying to help me. But they don't see that the entire thing, the entire structure of our lives is based off of needing frustration. They need people to be upset. They need people to be jobless and want a job. All those things are meant by design. They're not needed in a real world. It's all pretend. So I don't know. To me, it just seems like the whole PSYOP idea makes sense when you look at the reason for the PSYOP. But when you call Flat Earth a PSYOP, where does that make any sense?
It doesn't. The globe is a PSYOP. Pretty obvious.
The globe is a PSYOP, absolutely. And I always quote that guy lately. David Pratt says, you think that the Flat Earth is a PSYOP, the Flat Earth destroys the PSYOP. And I just love that bit because it's absolutely the fact. They don't want this getting out at all because it crumbles everything else. It crumbles the school system, it crumbles the university system, it crumbles the Jesuits, it crumbles the Catholic hierarchy, it crumbles, the whole entire thing falls apart. And I think it's for the better, or else I would think twice about continuing what I'm doing, but I don't because it's for the better. I don't think people should be lied to. How could it? It's just going to get worse. We're just going to get more oppressed. Tyranny will be even better, or even more prevalent if we don't do something now. It's already, I don't want to say it's too late, but we allowed them to go way too far to where now we're looking at an uphill battle, big time uphill battle, to correct what they did, because they did it in such a way by putting it in school books, teaching it to kids. That's the scariest thing to me. I looked up the other day how many kids graduate every year, and it's 3.5 million. So you've got 3.5 million people. I'm talking about the United States. 3.5 million people in the United States that are graduating from high school every single year, meaning that you've got 3.5 million indoctrinated globe believers popping out into the workforce every year. And it's pretty tough to get 100,000 views on a video. So, it's an uphill battle. The way I look at it is how do I get 3.5 million people to see the deception in 1 year in order to combat the 3.5 million drones that come out?
Do you know what I think, Jaron? It's definitely an uphill battle, but it's a battle that I'm, like everybody else who produces content or even supports other people, it's a battle that I'm not willing to surrender and not participate in, because I would rather meet my grave saying I did what I could rather than I did nothing.
Yeah, I think the word compelled is a better word. You just feel compelled to make flat Earth videos, to have this hangout now. It's not like when people say you're lying. I understand what you're saying, Sharon, because it's quite offensive. You say, "Well, I'm not lying. I'm compelled to do this."
Yeah,
that's not because I'm lying.
I didn't. There's a lot of things that have happened to me in the last year that necessarily didn't need to. We didn't need to lose our house. We didn't need to. Basically go broke. I wouldn't have needed to do that, but I chose to do it because I felt in the long run that the truth was more important, and you just said it best, Antonio, that I'm not willing to back down to the world I hate. I'm not willing to back down to the tyranny that I'm trying to stand up and point out. Basically, that I'm just admitting that they win and going back to their ways, and I couldn't live with myself. I mean, I remember Bob could even bring this up. There was like 1 week, this is probably now 6 months ago or something, that Miss and I were really hurting for money at that particular time, and I just told Bob, I need a week or two off because I need to go back to selling books and doing what we were doing that was making money before, and this isn't making money. I can't continue to do it. And that 2 weeks really turned into like 3 days of us trying to do our old job and looking at each other and just saying, this doesn't feel right. I felt like I was turning my back on the truth, and I couldn't do what I used to do. It was impossible. It was like, no, I just need to keep pushing ahead, and that ultimately, not that one moment, but I mean that whole idea basically came down to losing the house, that we had to make a decision to what's more important. Do we really need this, 2-bedroom, 1,700 square foot house, or 3-bedroom? Do we really need this house, or could we do this on a lesser budget? Could we reduce how much we, spend on a month? And these are steps we've taken over the last 5 years, getting rid of bank accounts. We no longer have cable TV, or any TV, satellite TV, anything. And all those things were needed to get me to the point I'm at now, which is I feel compelled to get the truth out. And is there money in it? No. And is there, safety in it? Probably not. But the ulterior, or the alternative, is not something I feel like I could live with.
Yeah.
Right now, I sleep great. I really do do this a lot and put a lot of effort and time into it. And when I go to bed, I sleep with a clear conscience. I sleep with, not fear. And I just felt like those things before, when I used to worry about saving my house and worry about work and worry about I lived in this state of fear, and I'm not good enough, and my job did that to me. My being a store manager, they would just work you to death. In California, only salaried employees, or only store manager was salaried employees with the company I worked for, and they wouldn't allow us to accrue any overtime for our staff. So anything that didn't get done in the store fell on me, because I was salary, meaning I had to pick up any extra slack, and I was constantly feeling like, man, I'm working 80 hours a week and I cannot get this done. I can't live up to their expectations. And what a different world it was, to where all I was doing is working to make that company rich as could be. I remember when they got in trouble for, CVS got in trouble for selling PSE, which is like pseudoephedrine, basically what they use to make methamphetamines.
Yeah.
CBS got in trouble for not tracking it as the law in California says. They got a $71 million fine, and I found out they paid for it. It was over. It was in the news for a couple days. Move on. And and come to find out that came out of like an account that they put aside every year for lawsuits. And it just hit me like, so they've been contributing, and I hadn't known that, but I knew that our laws seemed lax compared to what I knew the law was in California. You're supposed to check ID, run it through a system. Well, they just had us like writing it down, which, how is that running it through any system? It's not a double check. The person could have bought some the day before at another store, and they would be buying more the next day. So I knew that we were doing things wrong. Come to find out, they just paid it off, went about their merry way, and things like that were making me say, wait a second, if the neighborhood video store sold the tiniest bit of meth to anybody, they would be done. Their entire lives over. In jail, the business is done, they lose all their money, they lose their house, they lose everything, but not this corporation that is responsible for giving out this medication, which is potentially used to give people a harmful drug, over the entire state, and they get nothing. Slap on the wrist, it's in the news for a day, and that's it. So things like that just made me say, this is ridiculous, that I'm always worried about what this company thinks of me, and that's why when I left, I'd never been happier, and as far as this flat earth thing has gone, it's continued to make me feel more at peace with myself. And how do you not move forward with that feeling?
Yeah.
If you feel more comfortable now. I mean, if I were to die today, I'm completely fine with my life and completely fine with the way that I've treated people over the last 5 years. And do I have regrets about things that I did 10 years ago and the way I treated my parents and things like that? Absolutely. We all do, and that's what's important, is learning from mistakes. I'm not a believer in this whole, it's only your reality that matters, and the way you look at things is all that matters in life. No, it's not that way. We all live here together, right? So if I did something that hurt somebody else, I want to know that. I want it to be pointed out to me so that I change my ways in the future.
This is a great example of this, actually, Jaron, and I hate to bring him up for the third time in the show, but Reg Rhetoric gave a good example of this. So he's obviously a ball earther, and he's part of the heliocentric system. And on his hangout, he was talking about going into a takeaway or going through a drive-through, and them not giving him a straw. Now, from what I gathered from the hangout, he'd been on this insane trip over this straw for probably a week, furious, to the point where he, wanted to storm back into the restaurant and give the manager a load of grief and abuse over this straw, because it was his God-given right to have his straw with his drink when he got home, and he didn't, and this is an absolute outrage. And it's just in such stark contrast to what you've just said. You're talking about being at peace and saying, I like my life. I've lost my nice house and I've had to downsize, but I still like my life. I'm at peace. Yet Reg Rhetoric loses a straw, and that's enough for the world to be put to rights.
Yeah.
No, that whole situation with people saying that I'm Michael Moriarty, that whole Bitcoin incident, taught us a lot, because we chased after a fraud artist who stole money, $80,000 from somebody, and I remember my wife and I even talking about, look how easy it was for him to steal $80,000, and I said, yeah, it was ridiculously easy, and on top of that, though, I said, it's not even worth it. Think about what that man has to go through the rest of his life. Whoever he is, wherever he is, he's miserable because he cannot go to the grocery store without thinking somebody there knows who he is. He can't answer the door. He can't answer the phone. He can't answer an email. Everything he does has to be, encrypted, or it's got to be done through a fake account. And the fact that I'm not having to live like that is enough for me to know that what we're doing is right. I have no problem being out there in the open. I have no problem with my IP address being known, because I'm not doing anything wrong. Does that mean that the government won't come arrest me for some bullshit? Well,
it should be the other way around, considering we're considered the kooky conspirators or whatever.
Right.
You've got someone like Reg Rhetoric hiding his name, hiding his face, and all he's really doing is saying, I believe everything. It's all true.
Yeah.
Well, so does 99% of everyone else. Why would that mean you have to hide your face? It should be me and you and Antonio who haven't got our names out there, that haven't got our faces shown because we're kooky. But we're saying, no, we're not kooky. We're just at peace. We're quite happy. No need to attack us. But yeah, you've taken my straw. God damn it, flat earthers.
And if we're wrong, right? I mean, if we're incorrect about what we're saying, there's been a ton of people who've been incorrect over the years, you know, and it's part of life, is being wrong about something and being shown that you're wrong and growing from that. So if I'm wrong for questioning science and questioning what I was taught, show it to me, and I will say, you know what, you're right. I made a bad choice by questioning the great Neil deGrasse Tyson. I made a bad choice of not believing every word that Bill Nye said. And that would be fine. I would move forward and learn from that. But instead...
There's a nice quote, sorry to cut you off, Jeremy. There's a nice quote from Brian Mullen, and he said that you learn 10 times more from your mistakes than you do from your successes.
And yeah, and also, like, if somebody proves you wrong, if somebody proves me wrong, you know, it took me a while to get to the point that I am now, where if somebody proved that I was using Mooncalc wrong back when I was doing stuff with Mooncalc, and I realized that I was really thankful, because I could have carried on the rest of my life thinking that you know, there was nothing wrong with it. If somebody proves me wrong about anything, I'm thankful. It's like, wow, thank you. You've saved me trouble. You've saved me being misguided or misled by my own ideas or by an illusion or by somebody else's idea. So I'm thankful to them. I've got a cool little idea for us now and for anybody out there in the chat. Okay, but I'll let you be the subject, Jaron. Okay.
Okay, I'm the subject.
So at some point, you realised that the world was not a globe. Yeah. And there was the first day at some point where you woke up knowing that you were not on a globe. Do you remember that day?
Absolutely.
I do.
Okay. So this is the thing. So you remember that day, and at some point you make the decision that you want to help other people understand this. Yeah?
Absolutely.
This was back when. Can you imagine back when, on the first day that you remember that you realized you were on a flat plane or a flat realm, and the day when you realized you wanted to dedicate at least some energy into helping others? Can you imagine, if you knew back then, the amount of stuff that you've achieved at this point right now?
Can I?
Yeah, this is, if you go back then, no.
No.
So you've achieved so much, and we had no idea what we would be able to achieve. What you would, I'm saying we, you know, as if I compare, but what people achieve, it's like, it's wow. And when people look at things like Max Igan from a subjective point of view, they don't see the world clearly. So I say kudos to you.
Full circle, actually, Antonio. So we were saying at the beginning that as a child, we're told this is how the moon works, this is how the sun works. Whereas if we were told as children, we don't really know, our abilities would be so exponentially increased by having that lack of understanding.
Yeah, the questions and the creativity. You know, you said before, Jaron, you might not be intelligent enough to X, Y, and Z. Like, the explaining and side of intelligence is one part. You know, that's based on logic and theory learning, because especially when it's to do with abstract thoughts, not things that you can physically test. But there's the intelligence that comes in the question, in figuring out a question, in noticing the error and composing a question cognitively. That is what education kills, by telling you all these things are already resolved. You know, don't bother figuring out questions. And I don't know if you were like me, but or Nathan, but I was forever being kicked out of class, from religion, from history, from all of them, for asking questions. For literally asking questions, not challenging the teacher or being, you know, rude, by asking questions, and when I didn't receive an answer, saying, hey, is this how it goes? I ask you a question, you're a teacher, and you don't give me an answer? You know, then, right, out.
Yeah, I guess I I was the same way. I mean, I'd asked a ton of questions, and I think it always helped me shape my world. But I didn't really ever. I wasn't kind of that kid that bucked the trend too much. I learned how to fit in, and just kind of accepted my role. But I mean, even with working in the church like I did, and working in the rectory, and working as head altar server, and all those things, I always asked questions, and it just really helped me shape like my opinion of priests. And I asked them so many questions that I thought, here's a man who's given himself to God, decided to be abstinent for his entire life. He must know the truth. And when I asked them questions, I realized they don't know anything. They don't know more than we do. They just have chosen to give their life for what they believe in, but they don't know anything. I would ask all them, have you ever talked to God? I mean, I probably asked that to 15 priests in my life, and every time got the same answer, which was, well, no. I felt God acting in my life, and so I said, well, so have I. But that doesn't mean that I'm ready to throw my cards into, well, I'll never get married, and I'm going to preach from this book, and I'm going to wear gowns and stand up on an altar and think I turn wine and bread into Jesus' body and blood. It just baffled me, but you're right. Asking questions is huge, because if we don't, then I could see why you get indoctrinated. The questions allow you to see things that they're not always so cut and dry. Last night I was talking about the truth, right? Is there anything that is technically the truth? Well, it's hard to say, because if I showed you a Coke can and said, is this red, we would all agree that it's red. But if over the course of time people started thinking that it was blue, well, eventually wouldn't the truth be that it's blue? I mean, who could prove that it wasn't blue?
This is such a good point, because Nathan is colorblind for red.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well,
I was there shaking my head going, well, it probably is blue for all I know.
No, it's red. No, and so I just think with the truth, it kind of always led me to, well, yeah, others may say what the truth is, but they could be wrong, and was easier to go through life that way. And work, unfortunately, made me asleep to reality. And I love how you said how happy you were when you were told that you were wrong about something, because I remember my buddy coming up and telling me that 9/11 was an inside job. This is probably 2005, and I told him, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. And he said, no, dude, you got to look into it, this and that. And I said, you're a complete fool. There's no way the government had anything to do with 9/11. Didn't make any sense to me. I passed it off, and it was like 2 months later that I happened to have a night where I was on the internet and just said, I'm going to look into this. And I remember finding out the first thing I did was call him, the very first thing, and be like, dude, thank you so much for telling me that. Like, I honestly had no idea. And it was like, I still, to this day, when I see him all the time, bring it up. Like, remember when I told you you're an idiot? Because it gave me so much from that. And I hope that I'm giving that to some people. That I'm not saying what I'm saying is true. It's just look into it. You'll be surprised.
Yeah. So, Jaron, this guy, this mate of yours, is he a flat earther?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
It would be so funny if the tables were turned.
They were, because when I told him about it, he told me I was crazy, and I knew that I could get him in time, and so I said, well, let me just tell you some things about it. And he's like, nah, dude, the Earth is not flat. And I told him some things about it, and for about the next month, he called me a lot less than he normally did. And I was like, is this guy getting mad at me? Is he doesn't he thinks I'm crazy now? And then the next time he came over, he had all these questions, but I could tell he had been looking into it, that he was looking it up, that he was investigating, because he was saying, well, what about this and what about that? And I told him kind of my answers, and he left. And a week later, he came over and he said, where do I get my certificate? I said, certificate for what? He said, for being a flat earther. And I'm like, I'll make you one if you want. So he still has some questions, but no, he absolutely sees it now. And if there's anything, he says it's we don't know. And that's, somebody went around saying it, and the people who said it clearly have something against God for whatever reason. If you've ever looked into it, science has basically tried to create a religion the opposite of what God is and God is about and what even the Bible's about. It just seems like to me when you look at science, they have just gone out of their way to prove what the Bible says is being wrong. You know, they look at the Bible says that the earth came before the sun, so they quickly say the sun came before the earth. And the Bible says that birds came before reptiles, and the Bible science changes to no reptiles and birds. No matter what the Bible says pi is 3. No, pi is 3.14. They're constantly trying to say that the Bible is wrong. And I'm not saying that means it's right. It just means that somebody's got a pretty big problem with the idea of God. And that's strangely...
Well, I think that's the dark side. So it's back when we were talking, I think it was on the subject of the Hampstead children, and you're kind of saying, well, do these people really believe what they're doing? Well, whether or not it's actually real, it's just, like you say, it's the antithesis of praising the light or praising God, and that is just the opposite of it, to have people who are praising nefarious things or drinking blood or doing all those things that you described with the Hampstead children, vile though they are.
I mean, what's more real than a child, right? And a childlike joy to run outside and just frolic, if you will. And they've taken those kids and from birth subjected them to the kind of torture and mind control that destroys their innocence. It makes me sick because, everyone should have an equal chance and an equal opportunity and be loved and be part of a community, and they've completely destroyed that. And it's disgusting, and it makes you know that they're doing it either by order or their own mental makeup. And so I think even in seeing what we notice with Globe Believers, what we used to be, right, we know that it's because of the way we were taught, because of the way that we learned, we were able to block out even questioning it. And so I think that's the same thing that happens to these poor kids, but they grow up to be the subjectors. They grow up to be the ones torturing the younger ones. So it's just, to me, it just shows it's their education. They were brought up that way, and it doesn't mean leave them be. It means we got to stop them, because nobody wants to kill anybody. Nobody wants to murder anybody. Nobody wants to go drop bombs on another country. We all want to live in peace, and that's it. And so anybody who's doing the opposite of that is probably doing it because they were taught to do it, right? And so how do we stop that? You have to eliminate those who are teaching that. And unfortunately, we've allowed them to get into every single school and to every single university, and that's why I think it's an uphill battle. But like Antonio said, that won't stop me. I mean, if I go to my grave, I feel like it will be doing it. I'll be going to my grave knowing that I've helped get a few more people on board with, hey, we need to relook at the way we look at the world, because we're looking at it with closed eyes. That brings up your whole thing with the moon landing and eyes wide shut, and people out there know the truth and they're keeping quiet. That's pathetic. That's sad in my mind. If you know the truth and you're out there, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, well, not Neil, sorry, he's not out there, but anybody who knows the truth and is hiding it, if they do know the truth and are hiding it, Mark Kelly, these clowns, Bolden, then they are the dirtbags of this world. The ones that are raised in it and don't know any better, yeah, we'd wish they'd stop, but it's hard to say bad things about them because they were taught that way. It'd be the same thing as saying bad things about me because I believed in a globe, or saying bad things about me in 2003 because I thought 9/11 was as I was given the information on the news. That's not something you can go and call me names over. You can get away with that after you've told me to look into it and I refuse to. Like somebody like Red's Rhetoric, he's getting close to being able to be considered those kind of things because I'm giving him enough information that should allow him to question what he believes. And if he's refusing to do it, then those are the people we should have problems with. And anybody who knows what they're doing, we're coming for you.
Yeah. Hey, I want to just whilst you were talking, while sometimes somebody's talking and they're hitting chords, is and cause thoughts to pop in. You know, the Christian saying, "Love your enemy." I think that's, and I'm sure Christians out there are going to, you know, throw their arms up in angst. I think that's not. I think that's wrong. I don't think the saying should be, and as if I know, okay, but I don't think the saying should be love your enemy. I think the saying should be love those who see you as their enemy, because the reason they see you as an enemy is they hate you. So if you show love to them, it's difficult to continuously hate somebody who is demonstrating nothing but love and care and patience and whatnot. It's very difficult with people like the Hampstead guys, but if people who look into it somehow manage to find, well, it's like this. What you were saying, the people who've been brought up in it, we don't want to kill them. They didn't have a choice. So if we look at those people, including the bad guy at the top, with a kind of, it feels really wrong to think, but with love, as in trying to figure out a way of healing that guy, of fixing that guy, you know, and stopping the whole process by healing them. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, and you know, I don't.
We love you, Reg. We want to heal you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, somebody like that, though, I'm not sure if that can be healed, and I hate to say that, but
yeah,
somebody who is doing those kind of things, I'm not sure if you can heal them. Somebody like Red, that's a different story. Those people just need to take their guard down for, and you know, so many people have written me emails, Mark Sargent being a good example too. The way he describes how he came to it was, I'm going to debunk this, and so you kind of have to clear the slate for a weekend or whatever and look into something. And that's really what led most of us to this. It's what led me to a new way of looking at life, was my wife and I just getting so fed up with being lied to and just saying, let's wipe the slate clean. Start all over. Let's look at things from the ground up and build truth from things we can prove on our own. And in doing that, everything becomes easy. So I think when you have these shields on, when you believe so deeply in the globe that you will fight people over it, then it's really tough to take that weekend where you say, I'm going to put that all away and look at this from their vantage point. And that's kind of what I thought I'd be able to get Red to do, and he won't. You know, like I said, if I showed him the Tim Peake thing, if I showed him that video and said, why is he not doing that live, he would make up every excuse there ever was besides saying, that is weird, it doesn't make any sense, which is what somebody who just simply has the ability to understand you don't know everything and you don't know half of what you think you do, and there's a chance science doesn't know everything. Why science has propelled itself to thinking it is godlike because it can tear things apart and tell you what they're made of. You know, big deal. Where did those things come from? It's like, oh, we can get down to the smallest atom and this new element, and we can, yeah, who made the atom? Who made the element? How did they get here? They don't know. Science doesn't have to answer the why question, and that's the biggest question there is to anything. Science doesn't have to tell us why ever. They just have to tell us how and what and where. Big deal. I mean, it's a great thing that you're doing, but to then propel yourself up as, well, anybody who doesn't believe what we do and think the way we do, it's ridiculous. I mean, everybody knows that they've had a spiritual moment in their life, had some sort of connection with something that didn't seem of this world. We all know that, you know, we don't seem like we live inside of our brain like science tells us we do. There's just too many amazing things that happen in this world for us ever to just settle with, oh, we're just a bunch of electrical signals being fired off at random, and we came from stardust. I mean, that's what these people believe. I mean, Neil deGrasse will flat out say, a star died so you could be here. Or I think that's Lawrence Krauss said that. It's ridiculous. And then he'll turn around and tell you how dumb religion is, and then he'll turn around and tell you that something came from nothing at the moment of the Big Bang. And something I've said the last couple of weeks, I still think it's hilarious. It never hit me until recently, is like, people will always make fun of creationists. Oh, you're a creationist. Don't tell me you're a creationist. And the people who believe in science believe in the Big Bang, where there was nothing and a bunch of matter was created. So it's like, you're a creationist. What do you mean? Like, what's the difference? It doesn't matter. It just makes no sense to me. And then they think something came from nothing, and I thought that was their whole argument about God. Well, if God's there, then something must have made him. It's like they can use that argument, but if you say, well, then what made the Big Bang? Well, nothing. It just came from nothing. It's just ridiculous what they get away with, and saddening that people bought into evolution. I remember 2 years ago I believed in evolution. It makes me sick. You know, it may have been for 3 months, but I had at least accepted the fact that, well, religion seems wrong. Okay, yeah, God creating everybody and Adam and Eve seems wrong. Okay, evolution makes sense. We all came from amoebas. I mean, it's like, but it was so easy for me to see the religion of science, and I wish everyone else would see it. And maybe eventually they will. They don't now.
They will. They will.
They will. It just makes no sense. The whole idea. I've tried to point that out a couple recent times because it is the most sickening thought. And the way they describe it, I at least used to think that they weren't lying. I used to think like, well, science is at least telling the truth. They may be getting it wrong, but they're not lying. But now the more I watch Richard Dawkins, I'm like, the man is lying. The man lies. He comes out and says blatant lies. He's a biologist. He knows the truth. For instance, I've heard him numerous times lately saying, well, you don't understand evolution because it took thousands of millions of years. And when he says that, I'm thinking in my head, oh, well, that is a lot of years, thousands of millions of years. And that's kind of, okay, well, I could see why that would lead to maybe evolution. But when you look at that description, it's bullshit because they say dinosaurs got extinct 67 million years ago. And since then, every mammal has evolved to be human, or through the process to where we have humans now in 67 million years. 67 million years. So don't tell people thousands of millions of years. That's a lie. It's like you just said some bullshit. So I mean, there's so many evidence of them flat out lying. Lawrence Krauss and those guys, they're like, talk about charlatans. They're making money, writing books called Something Can Come From Nothing. How the hell can you write in a book called Something Can Come From Nothing? And just lying, and they laugh about it, I'm sure, because what do they care? And then they make fun of God. It's like, good luck. They're jokers.
Do you know what I like to do when people say things like, well, something, which people do now? People are saying, well, yeah, something can come from nothing, like the Big Bang, and they're saying that. It's like, yeah, did you know Gandalf could shoot fire from his hands? Just because you can think of something doesn't mean it's true.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's what math is, right? Math has allowed people, Tesla said it best when he said, mathematicians wander through equations and they've completely lost touch with reality. That's great that you can draw little numbers on a paper and make them balance. What is that? It doesn't mean it's reality. I mean, I can write a number with 75 zeros after it. It doesn't mean that much exists. If I write an equation with money, it doesn't mean that much money even exists. So it's just so ridiculous that what we've allowed, reality to become, which is simply a joke. I mean, the whole thing of orbital mechanics, right? It's so funny when you asked about that moment when you woke up. I remember one morning, and this is it was after I made my first video, probably months after. Maybe it was May of last year, and I don't remember if I had a dream or if it was just I came to it as I woke up, but I mean, I remember rolling around in bed like a little kid at the thought of a globe. It had finally settled in at the absurdity of, and I still want to bust out laughing right now. The absurdity.
Well, maybe that's a good way to wrap up, guys.
Yeah.
Coming up in about 3 hours, you could give us some your most absurd point about the globe, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
All of it. I just the whole idea, the picture of space, and the idea of this ball that is spinning through space, but the spinning of it has no effect on the atmosphere of the ball, and the water is being held to it, and the people operating inside of it have no idea that they're spinning. And this is something I've tried to point out to people recently. If you believe in the globe, where does it end? Meaning tomorrow Neil deGrasse could say, we made a mistake. You're not spinning 1,000 miles per hour. You're spinning 1,000,000 miles per hour. And you can't question that, because since we can't feel 1,000 mile per hour spin, you wouldn't feel 1,000,000 mile per hour spin or 10 million. So you've given up your brain. You've given up your ability to think or contemplate on things. You must just say, well, science says so. Now we're spinning 1,000,000 miles per hour. The whole idea of the structure spinning, flying through space around a sun that's 1,000,000 times, Earth could fit in the sun 1,000,000 times. You see it in the sky. Go look outside at the sun and tell me 1,000,000 Earths will fit inside that. The fact that people are upside down and the way they describe it, well, no, to your perspective, you're right side up, and to theirs, they're right side up. That's not. That's a story. You can tell stories all you want. That's great. I know that you guys are sitting right side up, and I'm sitting right side up, so we're on a level playing field. So my wife said last night, she goes, I think when they say level playing field, she meant a level playing field. Like, yeah, maybe it did mean that.
Well, for me, it's one of the most ludicrous things, though, to visualize. If I toss a ball up now and it comes back down to me, well, there's someone on the opposite side of the globe that will throw that same ball, and it will go away from my feet and then return towards my feet. That's just complete nonsense.
And again, if it was true, then there would be evidence of the truth. Meaning, if the middle of a sphere pulled everything to it, then that would make sense if we ever got to see examples of that. But where is the evidence of that? Where is the... I think this is my best way of explaining it I've been able to. If you take a 5-mile ball, so I'm saying a huge rock, 5 miles wide, 5 miles tall, thing is huge, and you put a marble to the side of it, what would happen to the marble? The marble would drop and hit the ground. And if you ask somebody who's a believer in science and the globe and say, why does that ball not stick to it? Why does the marble fall to the ground? They'd say, well, the Earth is the bigger mass. And since it's the bigger mass, it attracts from its bigger pull than the big ball, the 5-mile ball. Well, if that's true, then why, when the moon goes around the Earth, does it not fly off to the sun? It's the same damn thing. We're a small ball. The moon is the sun is a big ball. Then anything that gets close to the bigger ball would be sucked to it. And that doesn't happen. There's a reason why, because their whole idea of gravity is a joke. And I've taken my thought back of saying gravity isn't real, because people want to call the activity of dropping your pencil as gravity. That's fine. Call that gravity if you want. It is just weight falling and hitting something till it stops. But then they go out and say gravity is the moon is also falling. And they believe that it's falling and missing the Earth as it falls around the Earth. It's missing
But not
it.
only that, as you just pointed out, as it's missing the Earth and it's the side of the sun, it's missing it and not being captured by the gravity of this absolutely massive object. It just defies that gravity and carries on a completely steady orbit around the Earth.
Right,
Totally
and then we're also falling around the sun.
And around a black hole.
Right.
Yes.
And
as it goes around the Earth, at one point it's being pulled along the back of the Earth by the Earth's gravity, and as it gets to halfway across and then to the other side, it's now being pushed by the Earth, and then pulled. And
that's what I don't. I mean, again, if it's a pulling force, then we go around the back of the sun and we're going out back in our orbit. What does the sun just say? Never mind, I'm not pulling anymore. I'm just gonna let you go. Go ahead, go out there, and I'll pull you when you come back around this way. It's just ridiculous. The whole idea.
I'm sure that kids in the future, I don't know how far in the future, but kids in the future will learn about this. They'll learn about the days when the globe stopped being a globe, and they'll learn that before that people, like in the same way that when we were taught that the flat earthers were stupid, when we were learning all about the globe and Columbus and all of that, they will look back at the people who thought they lived on a globe and laugh, and then they'll look at the time when people were trying to tell people, no, it's not a globe, it's flat, and the response, and they'll laugh. They'll think, why couldn't everybody just immediately grasp it?
Right. Why don't they just see it? And we should see that too. As a huge clue is why the hell were we taught that something like the flat Earth was ridiculous? I mean, that is a huge clue to me. Is it should have been taught as if the globe was true in 2nd or 3rd grade. They would have said, here is why we know it looks flat. Here's all the evidence that it's not. Not just say science has proven it's a globe, and ancient desert wanderers used to believe it was flat. Because now when we're saying it is flat, there's no evidence against it. There is simply people saying, well, these smart people say it's not. And it's like, well, that's not enough to teach kids that it's stupid to believe in a flat Earth. And anybody
can I round out with one final thought, which is about Obama, who's recently changed his tune, because it's now there's a lot of evidence that seems to support
the notion.
And it's not even the notion that it's round, not a globe.
I've noticed that too. You've noticed the new round. There's a lot of people saying it's round now. It's like, okay, well, things can be round and flat too, like my table example, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I think if we look, everybody needs to look at the ISS and really see if it looks like a ball, because I don't think it is. I don't think it looks like one. Doesn't act like a ball. Recently on Globebusters, I was showing, or even in my video, the way that the clouds come down on the corner of it, and it simply is not acting as a ball. So I do think we'll see that day one day, Antonio. I think we're going to see, I hope in my lifetime, to where we can look back and say, remember when people used to believe. It may take us 20 years, may take us 40 years, I don't know. But I will say I'll never pull a Tiger Dan. That's my final bit. If I ever do...
Hold on, let's get this as a really nice soundbite.
Get it as a nice soundbite. If I ever realize or am proven that the Earth is a ball, I will make video after video about the proofs. So if I ever just come on and say, I'm out of here, then know that I've been compromised or something. Because if I really do come to the conclusion that it's a ball, believe me, I would feel so bad for telling people my stupid brain thought that we weren't, that I would explain why I've come to the conclusion now that it is. And I don't see that day ever coming, because it would have already came. Somebody would have already shown me an error to my ways. I've had a lot of people try. I've had somebody send me a telescope. Somebody went out of their way to send me a very expensive telescope, and the telescope has helped me see the deception inside telescopes. Sorry if you're listening, Peter, but I feel bad. But on the same end, we've been conversating, and I'm not saying he's a believer at all in what I'm saying, but he definitely understands now where I'm coming from, and understands where I get my thoughts and why I think the way I do. And a telescope is simply meant to pull what you see into a certain way and show you an image that may not be representative of reality. So yeah, definitely, if you ever see me admit that it's a globe, I will come with facts. I will come with evidence. I will never just say, "Oh, it is real. Gotta go. I'm out of here." You won't see that.
Good to hear.
Did you get that soundbite?
Jeremy, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. Antonio, have you got one final point you wanted to get in before we close out?
Yes. So now instead of globe, it's ball, and appears and opinion, and all these notion. I'm thinking, okay, they've started saying it's oblate. I think the stages that will follow will be, oh, it's more oblate than we thought. Oh, it's more oblate. It's more oblate. It's almost like a pizza. Oh, look, rainbows, flowers, puppies, and then the guy will say, hey, hold on, weren't you saying it was a globe? And they'll be like, no, I never said it was a globe. They'll be so daft. That's what I think will happen. That's how I think they'll extricate themselves from it.
Yeah, they'll have to come across as they are, they know it now, or they knew it, and it's just been something that had to slowly come out or something. I'll leave with a quote from Al Hazen. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a astrologer, meteorologist kind of person from about 1000 AD, but I love one of his quotes. I think it's the way we should attack everything, and it's on the scientific method, but he said, the duty of the man who investigates the writings of scientists, if learning the truth of is his goal, is to make himself an enemy of all that he reads and attack it from every side. So I think that that is perfect, that if you care about science, then your goal should be to dethrone the current scientific belief. And if you can't, it's more evidence for everyone that that current belief is the truth. And we certainly were not treated like we were operating under the scientific method for daring to question the almighty ball. And I think that there's a reason why they don't want you questioning it. So look into it, and you'll see that the fourth wall is the side with the camera and the people laughing at you.
For definite. Once again, Jaron Campanella, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. Thank you very, very much for being here.
Thanks.
And Antonio, as always, thanks for being here as well. And to all of you who've joined us in the chat and live, it's been a pleasure. I've been Nathan Oakley. I will see you all in the next video.